Part 44. Fringe Artists in the Entertainment Industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 446. Chapter 432-430. Achievements in life must be refreshed from time to time. Humans are visual animals, and when vision is lost, other senses will be amplified. Li Bingbing's eyes went dark, and all his attention was focused on touch and hearing, especially the touch on the skin, which was amplified several times. In the dim room, Li Bingbing felt the subtle touch and fierce attack, and felt that this time the feeling was stronger than ever before. Didn't even feel there were four hands. Li Shui looked at Li Bingbing's fair skin with a flash of envy in her heart, and her soft little hands kept enchanting it. This feeling is different from the previous feeling of sleeping with Li Bingbing in his arms. I feel more excited and stimulated. I even think the scene is very winning. Chen Lian watched Li Shui eat snacks seriously with her small mouth open. She paused for a moment, glanced at Li Bingbing, and found that she didn't notice anything was wrong. They all doubted whether she was pretending to be stupid on purpose. Her current position was obviously out of reach, but she didn't doubt it at all. Li Bingbing put her hands on the soft pillow, her face was already red. Of course she realized something was wrong at this time, but what could she do? Take off the blindfold and scold Chen Lian and Li Shui? But taking off the blindfold in this situation will only make it even more embarrassing. It's better to pretend you don't know anything. Li Bingbing felt extremely complicated at this time, irritated, angry, and even a little obsessed. She couldn't help scolding Li Shui in her heart. How could she do such a thing? How could she be complicit with Chen Lian? But most of all, I was scolding myself for why I was still enjoying it. Li Bingbing's reflection didn't last for a few seconds before he was completely deceived and forgotten. He was really out of his mind and couldn't think of anything. Li Bingbing, who had been humming like a mosquito, suddenly let go completely, threw away all reserve and shouted loudly. Li Shui couldn't help but blush when she heard Li Bingbing's voice. She got out from under her and looked at Chen Lian with watery eyes. Chen Lian smiled slightly and patted Li Shui gently. She understood immediately and turned around on her own initiative. As long as a person is alive, he will have an identity and will have various social relationships and family relationships. When this kind of identity and relationship appears in situations where it shouldn't appear, it becomes much more interesting and the experience is completely different. This night was a very interesting experience, and it was also the key to breaking the existing relationship. Everything fell into place naturally. No one took the initiative to say anything, but everyone had already acquiesced to the change in identity and relationship. Early the next morning, Chen Lian made a few sandwiches in the kitchen, then went to the bedroom to take a look and found that Li Bingbing and Li Shui were still sleeping together, so he had no choice but to enjoy breakfast by himself. After the bedroom door was closed, Li Bingbing quietly opened his eyes and looked at his sister who was curled up in his arms like a kitten. He couldn't help sighing and hugging her tighter. Li Shui, who closed her eyes and pretended to be asleep, breathed a sigh of relief. She raised her face slightly and rubbed her face against Li Bingbing's arms again. Li Bingbing's face turned slightly red and he muttered in a low voice, "I didn't eat enough last night." Hearing Li Bingbing's words, Li Shui secretly laughed, opened her mouth and bit lightly. Chen Lian, who had finished breakfast outside, looked at today's newspaper and found no interesting news, so he put it down. "I wasted a ridiculous amount of time last night, so I have to make up for it today and go to the studio to do some art." When Chen Lian arrived at Hyogyo Temple around 9 o'clock, he unexpectedly saw Director Yang in the studio. "Old man Yang, why are you here?" Chen Lian looked at him and asked in confusion. Director Yang, who was chatting with Bo Qing, looked back at Chen Lian, snorted and said, "Let me see what Bo Qing has to do with you. Didn't Bo Qing buy the studio with his money?" Chen Lian, yes, this old man seems to be in a bad mood. He can't be offended. Chen Lian honestly moved a chair and sat down, listening to the conversation between director Yang and Bo Qing, and realized that what they were talking about was the plagiarism incident mentioned yesterday. Curator Yang sighed and said, "That guy doesn't want to admit it. He's a tough talker. The key is that I don't have any evidence now. It's hard to stop his art exhibition." Chen Lian frowned, thought for a while and took the initiative to interject and asked, "Are all his paintings collected?" Curator Yang was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but nodded and said, "It's really possible. I definitely don't dare to admit it at this time. If he admits it, those collectors will eat him alive. In this case, let's wait a few days. I guess he is anxious now. It will be the worst for him if this matter is brought out." Chen Lian couldn't help laughing and said, "He may want to delay it for a few days. Buy the painting back, or refund the money." Curator Yang nodded and said through gritted teeth, "Then let's wait and see. It's just in time to wait for the evidence to arrive, otherwise it's really hard to beat him to death." Chen Lian and Bo Qing looked at each other and couldn't help laughing. It seemed that old Yang had praised the painter a lot before. In fact, it's normal when you think about it. As an elder, helping the younger generation is something that many people are willing to do. Chen Lian also received a lot of care at the beginning. But old man Yang probably didn't expect to be tricked so badly this time. Who would have thought that a seemingly promising painter would be a plagiarist? Chen Lian patted old Yang sympathetically and said, "Consider it bad luck and teach you old guys a lesson. Don't flatter each other casually in the future. If you brag too much, you will lose your authority. Why has the art world become more and more niche? Why does everyone subconsciously think that art is just a pretense when it comes to art? Isn't it because everyone is exaggerating about it? A line sells for millions, and a blank canvas sells for tens of millions. These are all boasted by these critics. It's not that the public has no aesthetic taste. They can still tell whether a work is good or not, but they may not be able to interpret as many things as critics can. But everyone has the ability to perceive beauty. Why do I think the public only feels absurd and hypocritical, but only critics can feel beauty?" Old man Yang was a little embarrassed by what Chen Lian said. After taking a sip of tea, he stood up and said, "I won't tell you any more. I'm going to see those old friends. They don't know the news yet, and they might still be writing comments at home. This is serious business. I'll ask the driver to take you off." After Chen Lian stood up and saw old Yang out, he arranged for a driver to pick him up all day before going back to work on his art. Chen Lian closed all the curtains, and no light penetrated the room. He sat there quietly thinking about how to gather the inspiration in his mind and turn it into reality. Art creation is a difficult thing. It is harder than writing a novel and even harder than making a movie. Different media have limited space for expression. If you want to create good works, you can't do it without draining your brain. Chen Lian sat alone in the room for a long time, but still couldn't catch that little bit of inspiration. "I clearly know what I want to express, but I can't seize the opportunity that my favorite is." It was getting dark outside. Bai Qing put down the paintbrush in his hand, looked at the closed door, cleaned up briefly and went home. Chen Lian was in retreat, and she wouldn't disturb him. Disturbing him at this time would interrupt his thoughts. Who knows when his inspiration will come, if it is when he knocks on the door and enters. At around 7 o'clock in the evening, Chen Lian walked out of the room. His hair was scratched and messy. The lights were still on in the studio, but Bo Qing had disappeared. Chen Lian was not surprised. When Bo Qing fell into a creative bottleneck, he did not disturb him. "Go home and sleep, continue tomorrow." Chen Lian thought about it when he went out. He didn't go back to his home. He had just unlocked a new achievement yesterday. Whatever he did today, he had to review the past and learn the new. The most important thing is not to neglect them just after unlocking the achievements. Chen Lian has never been shy. Anyway, he is a very gentle person. Chen Lian arrived at Li Bingbing's house at around 8 o'clock. At this time, the two sisters had prepared meals and were waiting for Chen Lian to come back for dinner. Chen Lian took a look at tonight's meal and couldn't help but give Li Bingbing and Li Shui a thumbs up. The two girls were not afraid of death at all, and they made a table full of food. Let them regret cooking these dishes tonight. Who are you looking down on? That night, Li Shui was flushed and weak, grabbing Li Bingbing's hand and calling her sister for help. Li Bingbing couldn't bear to see his sister working too hard, so he took the initiative to stand up to her. However, after a while, he grabbed Li Shui's ankle and shouted that his sister had no conscience and bullied her with Chen Lian. The two little girls are still too young to make so many supplementary dishes. Let's see if they dare to provoke in the future. In the next few days, Chen Lian's life was basically a 2.1. He went to the studio during the day and went back to review the past and learn new things at night. There was one achievement to unlock and the next. There are so many new achievements to develop. When Chen Lian came out to drink water after sitting in the room all day, Bai Qing looked at Chen Lian's haggard face and couldn't help but said, "Look at the dark circles under your eyes. You've almost exhausted yourself. Go back early today. Don't stay up late. If you don't have inspiration, just wait. Don't worry." Chen Lian coughed awkwardly. The dark circles under his eyes were not entirely due to creative difficulties. "Okay, I understand. Go back and have a good sleep tonight." Chen Lian was very obedient. He finished his meditation session early that day. When he came out of the studio, it was not yet dark. He raised his head and looked at the beautiful clouds on the horizon, feeling extremely beautiful. After Bai Qing locked the door behind him, he also looked up at the sky and said, "Clouds are the most beautiful thing in the world and the easiest thing to dissipate. They make the sky beautiful, but are blown away by the wind in the end." Chen Lian nodded subconsciously and took a few steps forward, then suddenly paused. Cloud. Cloud. No, it's achievement. No, it's dissipation. Chen Lian felt that he finally caught that little bit of inspiration and finally knew what he wanted to create. Bai Qing looked at Chen Lian standing there blankly, his eyes getting brighter and brighter. He looked at the key in his hand, then turned back and opened the courtyard door. Bai Qing understood Chen Lian's current state very well. Sometimes inspiration burst out inadvertently. Chen Lian stood there and thought for a long time. The light in his eyes became brighter and brighter, and his whole body began to become excited. Bai Qing looked at him and said softly, "The door is open, you go ahead, I'll prepare some food for you." Chen Lian nodded subconsciously and ran into the yard. Bai Qing looked at his back and couldn't help laughing. The artist was back again. When Chen Lian disappeared from the yard, Bai Qing went shopping with a brisk pace and a smile. More than half an hour later, when Bo Qing came back with a bunch of things, he saw Chen Lian sitting on a chair, looking languid and wanting nothing. "Is it over so soon?" Bo Qing put down his things and walked up to Chen Lian and asked curiously, "I've never seen you so fast before. Can't you bear it anymore?" Chen Lian came back to his senses and rolled his eyes at Bo Qing. He sat up smelling the aroma of the food and said, "You are so fast. I just recorded all my inspirations. Now there is no material I can't get." Bo Qing opened the bag of food with a cry, sat across from Chen Lian and asked, "Are you doing installation art again?" Chen Lian nodded and then shook his head and said, "It's considered performance art. I can't achieve the effect I want by painting." "Okay, do you need my help this time?" Bai Qing picked up a bun and took a bite and asked. "No need. I haven't figured out a lot of the material myself. I'll have to do some experiments later." Chen Lian wolfed down his food and looked at Bai Qing, who had no appetite, and asked, "Are you free lately?" Bo Qing nodded, finished the buns in his hands, wiped his hands and said, "Eat slowly, I'm going home." "Don't leave." Chen Lian grabbed Bai Qing's wrist and said, "Wait until I finish eating and take you back." Bai Qing looked at Chen Lian's eyes as if they were burning with fire. He sat back and propped up his chin to watch him eat, but his fingers restlessly poked at Chen Lian's arm. After a while, Chen Lian couldn't wait to pull Bai Qing away after eating. Calling him fast is absolutely intolerable. If I don't prove it, I'll feel uncomfortable. That night, Li Bingbing and Li Shui looked at the table full of untouched food, and suddenly felt a sense of relief. No, it was a feeling of victory. Sister, are you saying that Mr. Chen is dying and is afraid so he won't come tonight? Li Shui was inexplicably excited. Li Bingbing nodded in agreement and said, it's definitely true. It's definitely not possible to hold on for so many days in the hands of our sisters. Li Shui pursed her lips and muttered, but I feel like he still had energy yesterday. Is it because he was tired of it? You didn't cooperate yesterday. Hearing Li Shui's words, Li Bingbing blushed and couldn't help pinching Li Shui and said, why don't you cooperate? Why don't you try that place? Li Shui smiled and avoided Li Bingbing's hand, and said with a smile, you are the elder sister. Of course you come first. A younger sister should give in to her elder sister. I'm sorry to say that, Li Bingbing knocked Li Shui on the head angrily, but he was also a little unsure whether it was because he didn't cooperate yesterday that Chen Lian didn't come. When sleeping at night, Li Bingbing suddenly said to Li Shui, do you think that place doesn't hurt that much? Otherwise. Li Shui turned her back to Li Bingbing and snickered, took out her mobile phone and secretly sent a text message to Chen Lian. Chen Lian didn't see the text message when it was sent, but only saw it the next morning. But he was busy creating during the day, so he didn't take it to heart when he saw it. Chen Lian still had to find suitable materials to complete this work. Chen Lian spent a whole day traveling to many places and looking for a lot of materials but was not satisfied. Chen Lian was not discouraged even though he had run all day in vain. He already had a good idea of how to make the work, and he could take his time and not rush. In the evening, Chen Lian went to Li Bingbing's place to learn new knowledge while working and resting. This kind of thing was just like finding materials during the day, and he needed to constantly try and develop. In the next few days, Chen Lian continued to combine work and rest, looking for materials during the day and learning new knowledge with Li Bingbing and Li Shui at night. In the past 10 days, the other girls have not seen Chen Lian. They either don't answer the phone or answer the phone and hang up after a few words. Everyone was murmuring in their hearts, whether the money Chen Lian gave them before was to stop them from causing trouble, or was it a breakup fee. Chen Myron is the most irritable one. She has been harassed to the point of being unable to work these days. Those women couldn't find Chen Lian, so they came to her to show off their presence. The gifts Chen Lian gave, the promises he made, all of them showed his importance in Chen Lian's heart. It's just that I didn't say it clearly. If you want to marry Chen Lian, there's no way for you to marry him. Don't even think about occupying Chen Lian by yourself. It would be fine if he just came to show off his presence in front of her. The key point is that there are suddenly a lot of gossips in the newspapers these days. There is such news as Mr. Zhou and Chen Lian kissing each other in the movie Ningjing, and Chen Lian having a deep relationship together many times, and Gong Li and Chen Lian visiting maternity and baby stores together many times. When Chen Myron saw these news, she really wanted to slap those women one by one. This was simply a challenge to Her Majesty as the Empress of the East Palace. We have a son, what do you have? How dare you speak so wildly? Chen Myron angrily called Chen Lian, wanting to catch him back and show those women who was the real one. Hey, husband, are you finished with your work? I miss you, and my son misses you too. When will you come home? Chen Lian was busy at this time. He took his mobile phone and said perfunctorily, I don't have time. I'll go back when I'm done. After hearing Chen Lian's words, Chen Myron felt a flash of disappointment in her heart. Before she could speak, she suddenly heard another woman's voice coming from the other end of the phone. Teacher Chen, I've finished washing, Xiaoxiu has also washed. You go and wash quickly. Chen Myron was stunned and wondered if she heard it wrong. It seemed like Li Bingbing's voice was on the other end of the phone. Isn't Xiaoxiu Li Shui? Dog man. No wonder I had to go home. It turns out you went to find a sister to spend time with. Before Beauty Chen could say anything, she heard Chen Lian say good night in a hurry and then hang up. Chen Myron looked at the phone in her hand and suddenly fell into deep thought. She seemed to be unable to defeat the sisters by herself. Moreover, Li Shui and Li Bingbing are still so young, so they must be more attractive to Chen Lian than themselves. I also want to find an ally, but who should I find? Chen Myron sat on the sofa and became entangled. Otherwise, she would be Chen Lian's favorite. If she were there, she would definitely be better than the Li sisters. After thinking for a while, Chen Myron gave up this plan. Mr. Zhou was more dangerous than the two sisters of the Li family, so it was better to find someone who was not a big threat. Li Dabai? No, she is in the same group as Bai Qing, Gong Li, and the others. Chen Zihan? No, she already has two allies, Zhang Qing and Fan Bingbing. Not even Ning Jing, a tiger girl. Who else? After Chen Myron thought for a while, she suddenly thought of a very suitable candidate. Lu Xiaoli. This is the least threat. If she is compared, Chen Lian will definitely like himself more. A divorced young woman also brought a troll, she was definitely no match for him, and according to Chen Myron's understanding, she seemed to be the least thoughtful. She only focused on her children and Chen Lian, and never took the initiative to argue with other women. What a perfect candidate, the plan works. Beauty Chen couldn't help but give her a thumbs up for her wit. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 447. Chapter 433-431. Being shown off by Lu Xiaoli. In the quiet courtyard, the summer evening breeze blew gently, but it did not bring a hint of coolness, but made people even hotter. Chen Lian stood in the yard and took a shower with cold water. He wiped it casually with a towel and then returned to the house in a hurry. Although there is air conditioning in the workshop, Chen Lian cannot turn it on. The materials used in his art installation this time emit formaldehyde, so the windows must be opened for ventilation, otherwise it is easy to get formaldehyde poisoning if you stay in there for a long time. It was already evening at this time, and the light in the room was very dim. Chen Lian, wearing a thick mask, squatted on the ground and slowly moved to inspect the semi-finished products in front of him. The basic part has been done, and although the main part is still a bit different, the overall appearance can already be seen. Outside the workshop, Bo Qing came in holding his nose and looked at the half-finished work. It was hard to imagine how Chen Lian came up with such an ingenious idea. After Bai Qing admired him in his heart for a while, he looked at Chen Lian and said, "Are you moving out tomorrow? If you continue to do this, you won't be able to get it out." Chen Lian came back to his senses and turned to look at Bo Qing and said, "Yes, but old man Yang hasn't confirmed the exhibition hall for me yet. It will take a few days." Speaking of the exhibition hall, Chen Lian thought of the plagiarist painter, stood up and moved and said, "What happened to the plagiarist painter?" Bai Qing slapped his nose and frowned and said, "The exhibition has been withdrawn, and no punishment has been issued within the Artists' Association yet. The foreign painter knew the news and wanted to sue him, but cross-border lawsuits are difficult to handle." Chen Lian hummed, pulled Bai Qing out, closed the door of the workroom, then took off his mask and said, "Don't come here in the future, or you may get poisoned. The matter of plagiarism by that artist is probably going to be settled. After all, so many people are involved. People in the circle will not talk about it everywhere. The Artists' Association will not be able to punish it. At most, it will be reported internally." Bai Qing smiled helplessly. This kind of thing is indeed difficult to deal with. After all, So many people are involved. Many seniors in the circle have stood up for him, and many collectors have bought paintings. I really need to lift the lid. Too many people's face has been swept away. It's really ugly. The two of them didn't talk much about this issue. After all, it had little to do with them. Chen Lian wiped his hands and looked at Bai Qing and said, "Let's have dinner together tonight." Bo Qing shook his head and said, "I have an appointment tonight, let's do it next time." "Who?" Chen Lian asked curiously. "My cousin came to Beijing on a business trip." Bo Qing smiled and asked, "Would you like to meet him? He has always wanted to meet you, a big star." Chen Lian smiled and said, "Okay, my uncle is here, I have to go see him no matter what." "Ba, who is your uncle? Let's wait until you want to marry me one day." Bai Qing rolled his eyes at Chen Lian in disgust, suddenly remembered something, grabbed Chen Lian who was about to change clothes and said, "You'd better not go, otherwise it will be very troublesome." Chen Lian froze in his movements of changing clothes, turned around and said apologetically, "I'm sorry." Bai Qing sighed softly and said, "I chose it myself. It has nothing to do with you. I'll leave first and I'll have dinner with you tomorrow." Watching Bai Qing leave, Chen Lian grabbed his hair helplessly. Bai Qing was different from the girls in the entertainment industry. She longed for love and marriage, but Chen Lian could only give love but not marriage. Maybe in the future Chen Lian will figure it out and give Bai Qing an explanation. Chen Lian simply tidied up in the studio and left. But he hasn't decided where to go tonight, whether to go to Li Bingbing and Li Shui, or to go to Fan Bingbing and Chen Zihan. One is 2 sisters, the other is 3 sisters, it's a bit confusing how to choose. Ding. When Chen Lian was struggling, his cell phone suddenly rang. He took it out and saw that it was a text message from Li Bingbing, saying that he had to work tonight and might not get off work until very late. Li Bingbing is quite busy this year and has several drama appointments. These plays were all arranged for her by Li Shui. Since Li Shui took control of the company, he began to attract directors and screenwriters who came north from Hong Kong according to his previous plan. The styles of directors and screenwriters in the 2 places are very different. It's like a few Xiangjiang screenwriters from the company sitting together and chatting and tossing out a script for a TV series. Xiangjiang screenwriters and mainland screenwriters have 2 different creative styles. Mainland China prefers screenwriters to work out the script by themselves first, and then start the second creation. The one in Xiangjiang was different. It was more casual and less particular. A few people sat together and came up with a good idea, talked about the framework of the script, and then started working on it. There may not even be a complete and detailed script when filming begins. Just like a project currently being prepared by the company, Splendid Spring and Zhu Beiji, it was created by a few screenwriters from Xiangjiang sitting together and chatting. There is only the framework of the script, not a complete script. For another project, the screenwriter of Young Bao Qingtian is also from Xiangjiang, and the director selected is Hu Mingkai, who is also from Xiangjiang. Many of the current team members of the company are from Xiangjiang. Li Shui really spared no effort to attract these film and television talents from Xiangjiang. "No matter how good they were in the past, I will take them anyway when you come. The main thing is to recruit talented people." Chen Lian doesn't care much about these things, and TV series are not worthy of his attention. However, the company has indeed become more and more successful under Li Shui's leadership. It was time to reward Li Shui another day. Chen Lian rubbed his chin and thought for a while, wondering whether to give him some shares. While Chen Lian was thinking, the driver suddenly spoke. "Mr. Chen, which villa number are you going to tonight? The road behind is blocked and a traffic police officer is coming," the driver reminded him as he looked in the rearview mirror. Chen Lian came to his senses and said, "Go to Villa No 5. "Okay." The driver immediately started the car and slowly drove out of the alley. The traffic policeman who came on a motorcycle turned around and went back after seeing it. Chen Lian took out his mobile phone and sent a text message, then leaned on the chair and closed his eyes to rest. Li Bingbing is working overtime tonight and will not go to her place. Instead, he will go to find Chen Zihan and Fan Bingbing. Villa number 5 is the villa that Chen Zihan and Zhang Qingqing belong to. To make it easier to remember, Chen Lian has arranged the number. The driver usually asks what villa number it is, rather than who to look for. Number 1 is Gong Li, number 2 is Chen Myron, number 3 is Mr. Zhou, number 4 is Lu Xiaoli. There are numbers 6789 behind it. Chen Lian can't even remember how many villas he bought in the capital, and he has already given away more than 10. There are still some that have not been given away and I don't know when they will find their own owners. Chen Lian is at most a spender, and the real owner of the villa has not yet appeared. At this time, number 2 and number 4 were together for the first time. This was the first time that Chen Myron took the initiative to come to Lu Xiaoli. The two had only met once, and this was their second meeting. Looking at Lu Xiaoli's home, Chen Myron couldn't help but click on it, thinking that she had quite good taste. Sissy was watching TV on the sofa with her sister in her arms. When she saw Beauty Chen appearing here, she sweetly called Auntie, "Hello." Chen Myron smiled and nodded, thinking this little girl was quite beautiful. But her attention was more on the sister in Qian's arms, who was Chen Lian's son. Lu Xiaoli came out of the kitchen with a cup of tea, put it in front of Chen Myron and said, "I don't usually have many guests here, so don't mind if I don't have any good tea." Chen Myron smiled and said, "The tea that Lian drinks is all good. I personally selected it for him." Lu Xiaoli narrowed her eyes slightly, smiled and said nothing. Myron Chen didn't care about her reaction. She just couldn't help but wanted to press her head. After picking up the cup and taking a sip, she raised her eyebrows slightly. The taste of this tea was wrong. She didn't choose it. Chen Myron glanced at Lu Xiaoli calmly, put down her cup and said, "You have good taste. I usually like to study these things when I have nothing to do at home." "Women should still focus on men," Lu Xiaoli said with a smile. Chen Myron curled her lips imperceptibly and glanced at her sister in Qian's arms from the corner of her eye. Lu Xiaoli just said it as if she had no ambition at all. How could she ask Chen Lian to have another child if she had no ambition? But Lu Xiaoli is indeed relatively peaceful among lovers like Chen Lian. Chen Myron looked at her and said, "Let's go to the study room to talk. There are some things it's not convenient for the child to talk about here." Okay. Lu Xiaoli stood up and took the initiative to lead Chen Myron towards the study. Sissy took a sneak peek, and after Lu Xiaoli and Chen Myron disappeared, she immediately put her sister down and followed them secretly. Sissy leaned against the door and listened to the sounds inside. After listening for a long time, she didn't hear any voices inside. "Dad's study is so well insulated, but I don't know how to make the bedroom more soundproof." Sissy turned around and left in disappointment. She also wanted to hear what the woman and her mother had to say. Don't get into a fight like the concubines in the TV series. Chen Myron in the study looked at Lu Xiaoli and asked, "Lian hasn't been here for a long time, has he?" Lu Xiaoli didn't know what she meant by this, so she frowned and said, "I just came here 2 days ago and took Sissy and Fifi out to play." Huh. Chen Myron was stunned for a moment and couldn't help pinching her fingers. "Damn Chen Lian, your son doesn't want to look at his daughter, right?" Lu Xiaoli looked at her like this, raised the corners of her mouth slightly and continued, "As long as Lian is in the capital, he will come almost every week." "Lian likes daughters," Chen Myron said with a smile, but she felt a greater sense of crisis in her heart. It is not safe to have a son. Why is there no advantage at all? Lu Xiaoli did not continue to stimulate Chen Myron, but asked with a smile, "Why did you come to see me today?" Chen Myron came back to her senses and saw that Lu Xiaoli suddenly didn't want to talk to her. She didn't fall out of favor at all. She took the initiative to join the alliance but fell into a disadvantage. Chen Myron adjusted her mood and said, "It's nothing, I just came to take a look. Lian is too busy recently and I'm worried that he won't be able to take care of you." "That's it?" "Thank you for your concern," Lu Xiaoli said with a smile. "Lian takes good care of her, very considerate and careful. We don't need anything." "Really, that's good," Chen Myron replied in a nonchalant manner, but in her heart she wanted to bite Chen Lian to death. On the other side of the capital, Chen Lian was chatting with Fan Bingbing and Chen Zihan about the next Qianyao drama. The popularity of Huanzu made Qianyao think about letting the original cast make another drama. It's just that Chen Lian, Chen Mei, and Qianyao played a trick. None of the starring actors in Huanzu were signed by Qianyao. Now they don't have the initiative to gather the original cast for filming. If the two heroines, Chen Zihan and Fan Bingbing, are not here, what's the use? Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan and Fan Bingbing and thought for a while and said, "I originally planned to let you switch to the film market later, but it is not impossible to make another Por Yao drama. Consolidating your popularity will also be good for your future. Make a few more movies to accumulate popularity, and then you will be a bloody cow in the future. Even if the movies you make in the future are all bad, don't worry." Zhang Qingqing sat next to him and poked Chen Lian unhappily and said, "What about me? I also want to film." Chen Lian turned to look at her and said, "Didn't you just take on the role of Qing He Julian? I've read the script for this drama, and it's going to be a hit." "How can we repay the fire?" Zhang Qingqing said unhappily, holding Chen Lian's arm and begging, "You can't favor one and the other, I am the most obedient one." Zhang Qingqing was indeed the most obedient. Chen Lian thought for a moment and said, "Aren't the major TV stations all competing for glory these days? I'll arrange a heroine for you later." "Really?" Zhang Qingqing immediately happily hugged Chen Lian's arm and said, "I love you so much." "Just don't say I'm partial." After Chen Lian said with a smile, he turned to look at them and said, "It's getting late, let's go eat." "Let's go, let's have a big meal," several girls shouted happily. At this time, at the door of Villa number 4, Mei Chen and Lu Xiaoli waved their hands and turned around to leave. She was shown off by Lu Xiaoli today. She didn't say anything about the alliance's plan. She just felt that her crisis was getting worse. If she continued like this, sooner or later she would die. Sitting in the car, Chen Myron called Chen Lian angrily, but she didn't get through for a long time. She called Chen Lian's driver again, and after asking, she found out that Chen Lian had gone to Chen Zihan and Zhang Qingqing. "You bitch. You like to go to crowded places more and more now, don't you?" Chen Myron couldn't help but curse after hanging up the phone. Chen Myron sat in the car for a long time, turned to look at Lu Xiaoli's villa, gritted her teeth and opened the car door and went back. "We need to find someone to cooperate. If we don't find someone to cooperate, it will be really dangerous in the future. My son can't be trusted either. Chen Lian, a bitch, actually prefers his daughter." Sissy, who was watching TV, heard the doorbell and ran over to open the door. When she saw it was Chen Myron, she asked doubtfully, "Auntie, why are you back again?" Beauty Chen forced out a smile, bent down and pinched Sissy's little face and said, "Please call me Sissy. Don't call me aunt in the future, call me godmother." "Huh?" Sissy tilted her head and couldn't figure out the situation. Lu Xiaoli, who had just come out of the kitchen, happened to hear these words and couldn't help raising her eyebrows and laughing. Knowing that Chen Myron came here today for a purpose, Lu Xiaoli guessed from her previous reaction that she might have sensed a crisis or been left out by Chen Lian. It seemed that they were here to form a gang. Lu Xiaoli felt that she might be able to use this opportunity to pave the way for the future. After all, she too will have her fair share of old age, and Sissy is growing up day by day, so she has to think about the future. There are some things she cannot take the initiative to tell Chen Lian, lest she be misunderstood that she is trying to fight over something. What happened to Lifugen last time? But I still remember it. After Luziali gathered her thoughts, she immediately walked over to Sissy with a smile on her face and said, "Sissy, why are you still hanging around? Call me godmother. There will be another chapter later, so I will start working hard to restore the 2 updates. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizuda Xiaomao. Chapter 448. Chapter 434-432. Gong Li, is this the surprise you were talking about? Life is so vast, drifting with the tide. What song are you singing? It's quite interesting. Bo Qing squatted next to Chen Lian and asked curiously. Seaweed or seaweed, I can't remember. Chen Lian was stunned for a moment and couldn't remember the name of the song. He even only remembered this one line of the song's lyrics. The memory of the future becomes more and more blurred as time goes by. 7 years have passed in the blink of an eye. In Chen Lian's memory, it seems like 11 years have passed since the last time he listened to this song. The memory of the reborn is not a hard drive. Chen Lian suddenly felt sad. He sighed silently, picked up a candle and installed it on his work. Lian, when will this work of yours be finished? Many people in the circle are counting on your work to cheer them up. Director Yang came over and knelt down, looked at Chen Lian's half-finished product and said, "You don't even think about it." Knowing about the previous plagiarism incident, it greatly affected everyone's confidence and enthusiasm. While Chen Lian was installing it, he asked, "How do you say it?" Curator Yang sighed melancholy and said, "It's hard to think that a good idea has appeared, but in the end it was found to be plagiarism." Some artists who have persisted for many years were even more shocked. They worked hard to think and create. The work is not as valuable as the plagiarized work, so the confidence is gone and the enthusiasm is gone. Speaking of this, Director Yang laughed self-deprecatingly and said, "There are still many people who think that domestic art should stop playing with modern art and just copy foreign art. It will make you famous quickly and make money at the same time." Click. Chen Lian suddenly had a lighter in his hand, and the blue flame lit the smoke. Chen Lian gently exhaled the smoke and said, "Art is not technology. If you plagiarize in art, then it's really over. These colleagues are too sensitive and fragile. Look at those who are engaged in scientific research. They are far inferior in spirit inside." "It's true." Director Yang smiled, patted Chen Lian on the shoulder and said, "I won't disturb you anymore. You can create with peace of mind. This exhibition hall will belong to you for the next 2 months. TCH, Chen Lian rolled his eyes at old man Yang and said, "It's as if you didn't confiscate the money." Curator Yang laughed loudly, looked at Bo Qing and said, "Girl Bo Qing, do you think we should charge a little more when we meet a wealthy businessman like Chen Lian?" "That's right, I'll take him twice as much next time." Bo Qing also laughed and agreed. Chen Lian didn't bother to tell them that this was Chiu Fu. He earned his money easily, so why, well, he is indeed hated. Bai Qing and Director Yang went out together. In the empty exhibition hall, only Chen Lian was left sitting on the ground, looking at the 3-meter-high device in front of him. They sparkle under the light. Chen Lian has pasted gold foil on the surface of these devices, which smells like money. Engaging in art wastes not only brain cells but also money. Chen Lian was dazed for a while, and then he continued to work, lighting a pot and melting candles. It's fun to shape the melted wax into the shape you want, but you still need to use a carving knife to trim it carefully after you've done it. Just when Chen Lian was immersed in the fun of carving and couldn't help himself, Gong Li suddenly appeared wearing sunglasses and holding her daughter. Seeing that Chen Lian was creating, she loosened her daughter's hand and tightened it again. The child was acting carelessly and damaging Chen Lian's things. The unlucky one will definitely not be the daughter, but her mother. The eldest princess looked at Chen Lian's back and wanted to go over there, but Gong Li didn't let go. She could only call her daddy in a sweet voice. Chen Lian, who was immersed in the joy of creation, heard this familiar voice and immediately looked back. He dropped what he was holding and ran over in surprise. Gong Li let go of her daughter's hand when she saw Chen Lian running over. The father and daughter hugged each other happily, and the cute girl threw herself into Chen Lian's arms and happily called her daddy. Gong Li was not that happy. She walked over and looked at Chen Lian and said, "Great artist, you are so sleepless and forgetful about food and sleep. I thought you forgot that you have a daughter." Chen Lian hugged his daughter, rolled his eyes at Gong Li and said, "I just took my daughter out to play last week, okay. Then why don't you take me out to play?" Gong Li said angrily. Chen Lian snorted and said, "You don't call me daddy." Gong Li angrily hit Chen Lian and said, "What are you talking about in front of a child?" Chen Lian ignored her and coaxed his daughter to play for a while before saying, "What are you doing here today? I want to go abroad." "You can take my daughter with me for a while," Gong Li said directly. Chen Lian asked in confusion, "Why are you going abroad?" Gong Li snorted and said, "What do you care about me? If you don't take me out to play, I can't find anyone else to play with." Chen Lian, Seeing Chen Lian speechless, Gong Li snorted and said, "The Berlin Film Festival invited me to be a judge." "Invite you to be a judge?" Chen Lian said in confusion. "Don't they know your relationship with me? I also participated in a movie." Gong Li said with a smile on her face, "Then what is our relationship? We are an old married couple, but we still know what we are doing, and our children are all good at it." Chen Lian rolled his eyes at her, pinched his daughter's face and said, "Does our Mengli know how to do soy sauce?" The eldest princess looked at Chen Lian cutely and asked, "What is soy sauce?" Gong Li looked at the scene and smiled and said, "Like a fool." Chen Lian snorted and whispered to the eldest princess, "Mom said we are fools. Can we punish her if we don't talk to her for 5 minutes?" "Okay," the eldest princess clapped her hands and agreed happily. Two heartless people. After playing around for a while, Chen Lian also knew why Gong Li didn't go with her children. First, it was inconvenient to fly back and forth, and second, it was a busy schedule for only a few days. After negotiating about being a judge, Gong Li still going to come back. Of course, the most important thing is for Chen Lian to get familiar with taking care of her baby around the clock first. When the film festival starts selecting films, she won't have time to take care of her baby, and she will have to stay in Berlin until the end of the film festival. Chen Lian has no objection to taking care of a baby. Anyway, he is almost done with his work now, so he just wants to relax and take care of the baby. "Are you going home tonight?" Gong Li asked as she took her daughter from Chen Lian. "Chen Lian, when will you go to Berlin?" "The day after tomorrow." "Then I'll go tomorrow." After having dinner with Gong Li and his daughter in the evening, Chen Lian went back to continue his creative work. It's already September now. By October, I have too many things to do and I won't be able to concentrate on my creative work. I have to hurry up. At around 9 o'clock in the evening, Chen Miran put on a facial mask and hung up the phone with Lu Xiaoli, then called Chen Lian. Now that the alliance with Lu Xiaoli has been reached, the next step is to snatch Chen Lian back from those little cowards. Let's compete between the little girl's alliance and the good sister alliance. A little girl knows how to enjoy, and a good sister is considerate and caring. She knows exactly what pose to pose without even opening her mouth. Chen Miran took the phone and said in a tired voice, "Husband, you can go home tomorrow." "I don't have time, I'm busy creating." Chen Lian held the phone between his face and replied intently. Chen Miran couldn't help but rolled her eyes. "You also create at night? Is this serious creation? It's not like I can't bear to part with so many good sisters." Chen Miran already knew what Chen Lian was thinking, and said calmly, I'm going to invite Lu Xiaoli to dinner. Aren't you afraid that we'll fight if you don't come back? Huh? Lu Xiaoli, how did you get a piece of it? Chen Lian suddenly asked strangely. Then don't worry about it. Just say whether you're coming or not. What if we both drink too much? You're still drinking? Then I'll go home tomorrow. I can take care of you if you drink and fall unconscious. Dot. After Chen Myron hung up the phone, she couldn't help but murmured, I wish we drank too much. Bah, this is what a dog man thinks about all day long. Chen Lian hummed and threw his cell phone aside. He still didn't know what Mei Chen was doing, but the influence of the gathering of two mothers was not very good, so they couldn't isolate the other one. The next day, Chen Lian did not go directly to Chen Myron's place, but went to Gong Li's place first. Outside the villa, Chen Lian looked at Gong Li and said, get in the car and take you out to eat today. Didn't you say that I won't take you on a date? My daughter asked the nanny to watch her. Hearing Chen Lian's words, Gong Li felt very touched. Thinking that this guy still had some conscience, she turned around and went back to explain to the nanny before following Chen Lian. After getting in the car, Gong Li looked at Chen Lian and asked with a smile, where are you going to take me? Chen Lian smiled and said, you'll know when we get there. There will be a surprise tonight. So mysterious, Gong Li suddenly began to look forward to it. Chen Lian smiled and said nothing. It was definitely a surprise tonight. There was no Gong Lion in Chen Myron's little alliance who could not prove his reputation. Since we want to form a team to defeat the boss Chen Lian, how can we lose another teammate? Soon the car arrived at Myron Chen's side. Gong Li looked at the somewhat familiar environment, turned to look at Chen Lian and said, you brought me to Myron Chen's house? Is this the surprise you said? You prepared it for yourself. Be surprised. Chen Lian said calmly, Lu Xiaoli is here too. Beauty Chen called her but not you, but I think we are all a family, and you can't be ignored if you ignore anyone. Gong Li was stunned for a moment and understood the meaning of Chen Lian's words. Has Chen Myron started to form a small group? After Gong Li thought about it for a while, she couldn't help but pinched Chen Lian and said, you want me to come and disrupt the situation, right? I don't mean that. You are the empress of the palace, and my position is here. I must take you with me, Chen Lian said shamelessly. Gong Li snorted and said, I won't argue with you now, I want to see what Beauty Chen wants to do. Chen Lian pursed his lips and laughed. He didn't care what Beauty Chen wanted to do. Anyway, he had already figured out what he was going to do tonight. You must not miss such a good opportunity. We are all mothers of children, so we should treat them equally. It's the end of the month, please give me a monthly pass. The monthly pass is so miserable this month. Foster parents, please give your children a monthly pass, I beg you. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 449. Chapter 435-434. Landlord fighting. In the afterglow of dusk, the luxurious villas were cast with a faint golden light. Gong Li stood in front of the villa door and held Chen Lian's hand holding the key, and said in a calm voice, we are guests, so we must be polite and knock on the door. Chen Lian, good guy, the fight started from the moment I knocked on the door. Tonight's position and identity have been directly determined, and Chen Lian, the host, has become a guest. Interesting. No wonder so many people like to watch palace fighting dramas. Chen Lian put away his keys and rang the doorbell a few times, then took a step back and stood behind Gong Li. Let her quarrel with Chen Myron. It's fun for beautiful women to quarrel. Soon Myron's voice came from the door. Honey, didn't you bring the key? Why are you here like this? Chen Myron said as she walked to the door and opened it. When she saw Gong Li standing outside the door, she immediately stopped talking. Chen Myron was startled for a moment and quickly reacted, saying in an unhappy tone, Why are you here? Gong Li smiled slightly, stretched out her hand to hold Chen Lian's arm and said calmly, you invited me to dinner, Lian and I are here together. Being a guest? Is there an emphasis on? Chen Myron was furious to death by Gong Li. Chen Lian stood aside and said nothing. He just felt that Gong Li's lines were really good. The relationship and emotions of the characters were all clear once the lines were told. Chen Lian, who was far away from home, caught a glimpse of Chen Myron's ugly face from the corner of his eye. He immediately took his hand out of Gong Li's arms, took a step forward and walked in front of Chen Myron, put his arm around her shoulders and said, I forgot to bring my key. Originally, I forgot to bring my key. I made an appointment with her to have dinner tonight, so we came over together. Chen Myron snorted and was very dissatisfied with Chen Lian's approach. Why didn't you tell her in advance? If you had known it, you wouldn't have called for dinner today. Okay, don't stand at the door. I'm hungry. Let's go in and eat. After Chen Lian said that, he let go of Myron's shoulders and walked in directly. Beauty Chen at the door looked at Gong Li standing outside the door and wanted to close the door and shut her out. No matter what kind of meal you want, you will be rejected. Gong Li looked at Mei Chen's hand holding the doorframe, chuckled, raised her hand and walked in. Chen Myron said angrily, did I invite you? Gong Li walked in calmly, as if she didn't hear what Mrs. Chen said. Chen Lian, who had gone in early, slipped around and didn't notice his big son. It seemed that he was sent away by Beauty Chen. As expected, a big battle is inevitable tonight. After Chen Lian came down from upstairs, he saw Mei Chen and Gong Li sitting in the living room, looking at each other, vaguely looking like they were going to fight. No, it was Myron Chen who wanted to hit someone. Gong Li completely ignored Myron. Chen Lian walked over and took the initiative to sit between them. He pretended not to feel the tense atmosphere and said calmly, when will dinner be served? I'm starving to death. Chen Myron's momentum immediately dissipated when Chen Lian interrupted her. After rolling her eyes at Gong Li, she said to Chen Lian, it will be ready soon. Xiaoli hasn't arrived yet. I just called to say that she was delayed on the way. Oh, let's wait. Chen Lian leaned on the sofa with his legs crossed, turned to look at Gong Li and said, don't be so stern, it's so nice to smile. Gong Li glanced at Chen Lian lightly and said, I'm not a joke, no. Chen Lian was speechless for a while, then turned to look at Beauty Chen and said, why are you so cold-faced? I have an uninvited guest at home, and I can't laugh at it? Chen Lian raised his eyebrows slightly. It was a bit difficult to start the battle tonight. I was still too greedy. If I had known that I didn't bring Gong Li here, it would be much harder for 4 people to fight landlord than 3 people. Chen Lian simply ignored them. If he liked to quarrel, then just quarrel. At worst, he would change places to fight the landlord after dinner. It's not like we have no one. Chen Lian watched the show with peace of mind, and even used his mobile phone to send a text message to Lu Xiaoli, asking when she would arrive. Gong Li and Chen Myron will quarrel, but Lu Xiaoli will not. Lu Xiaoli is a gentle and considerate good sister. Maybe it's because Lu Xiaoli is completely attached to Chen Lian. Everything she has now is given to her by Chen Lian. Unlike Chen Mei and Gong Li who can live well without Chen Lian, they feel more or less confident. Chen Lian couldn't help but laugh while looking at the text messages on his phone. Lu Xiaoli texted back and said she was sorry. Tisk, it's better to be a sister. Chen Lian put away his phone and walked around the kitchen. He was quite satisfied with the meal prepared by his aunt. Lu Xiaoli came after a while, and Chen Lian took the initiative to open the door for her. As soon as Lu Xiaoli came in, Chen Lian gave her a loving hug, and deliberately hugged her in front of Gong Li and Chen Myron. Lu Xiaoli was still a little confused. She hugged Chen Lian subconsciously, but her eyes noticed that Gong Li was also there. After hugging her, she immediately let go. There are still people here, Don't do this, Lu Xiaoli whispered in Chen Lian's ear. Chen Lian said nonchalantly, what happened to someone, please leave them alone. Lu Xiaoli's heart moved slightly, and she took a look at the situation in the living room, and she probably understood the current situation. He pinched Chen Lian secretly and whispered, are you using me as a gunman? Chen Lian chuckled and said, I just like sisters who are gentle, considerate, and considerate. She knows how to coax people. Although Lu Xiaoli knew that Chen Lian was deliberately irritating Chen Mei and Gong Li, she still decided to cooperate. After all, what he really relies on is Chen Lian, not the so-called alliance with Chen Myron. If given the chance, Lu Xiaoli believed that Beauty Chen would definitely kick both herself and her daughter away from Chen Lian. Chen Lian coughed, put his arm around Lu Xiaoli's waist, walked up to Chen Mei and Gong Li and said, we're all here, let's eat. The eyes of Chen Mei and Gong Li rested on Lu Xiaoli's waist for a moment, and they couldn't help but curse Chen Lian in their hearts. Who is this dog man trying to stimulate here? Chen Lian didn't care about the murderous looks from the two of them, and walked towards the restaurant with Lu Xiaoli in his arms. I steamed your favorite fish today and will eat more later. Lu Xiaoli held Chen Lian's arm and replied with a smile, obviously it's your favorite. I'll help you pick out all the fish bones later. Gong Li watched this scene in the living room, turned to look at Chen Myron and said, why do I feel that you are more like a guest than me? I didn't expect you to sow discord, your methods are so low level, Chen Myron replied nonchalantly on the surface, but secretly cursed Lu Xiaoli in her heart for taking advantage of the situation at this time without respecting martial ethics. Sure enough, the alliance is the most unreliable. Chen Myron stood up and looked at Gong Li with the momentum of a host and said, since you are here, please invite me. I hope you can eat it. I'm sure I can eat it, but I'm afraid some people are still feeling uncomfortable. Gong Li chuckled and stood up and walked towards the restaurant. All the dishes in the restaurant were served, and the nanny changed her clothes wisely and left the villa. Chen Lian sat in the main seat and looked at the three women who were still standing. He didn't need to think about it to know that they were thinking about how to sit down. Seats are also distinguished. Chen Lian didn't bother to seat them. He stood up and sat on the left side of the table. Then he pointed to the opposite side and said, sit down and eat. After Chen Lian did this, the three women had nothing to worry about. Everyone was the same. It's just that the three women are still a little uncomfortable sitting together. Chen Lian looked at the three of them and said, this is the first time we sit together to eat, let's have a drink together. Regardless of whether they felt uncomfortable or not, they still picked up their wine glasses and clinked them with each other. These faces still have to be given, otherwise it will be difficult for Chen Lian to be really angry. After finishing a glass of wine, Chen Lian winked at Lu Xiaoli, and she immediately picked up the cup and offered a toast to Gong Li and Chen Myron. Today is Chen Myron's game, and she took the initiative to seek an alliance with Lu Xiaoli. Naturally, she will not refuse Lu Xiaoli's toast. Gong Li and Lu Xiaoli have no conflicts, and they will not deny face. After Lu Xiaoli finished her toast, Chen Lian continued her toast. Don't you like to make trouble? I got you drunk. Drinking too much will solve everything. Gong Li looked at Chen Lian with a half smile while holding the wine glass and said, are you in such a high mood today? Chen Lian nodded without any guilt and said, I'm happy today. Gong Li snorted. She didn't know what Chen Lian had planned, but she still drank it in one gulp. She believed in her ability to drink. This wine is just average. After Gong Li finished drinking, she put down her glass and looked at Chen Myron and said, be more generous in your actions from now on, and serve good wine when you invite people to dinner. Chen Myron sneered and said, I didn't invite you here. It's better for me not to be grand than for some people to come and eat for me. Chen Lian couldn't help but clicked his tongue. These two people were really choked today. Okay, stop arguing, just eat well. Chen Lian tapped his chopsticks and said with some displeasure. Lu Xiaoli persuaded with a wink, and then picked up the cup to toast Beauty Chen and Gong Li together. A white face and a red face made Chen Mei and Gong Li temporarily calm down. Although the meal was not enjoyable, he drank a lot of wine. Chen Lian looked at the 3 empty wine bottles in front of him and felt that it was almost done. If you drink any more, you won't be able to play landlords at night. Chen Lian looked at the 3 women who were all a little drunk, stood up and said, "It's getting late, let's all go to bed early. We've all drank tonight, so don't drive home." The 3 women, who were still dazed at first, woke up at the same time and knew what Chen Lian's subtext was. Gong Li's face turned red, she rubbed her temples and said, "Ask your driver to take me off." Chen Lian shrugged his shoulders and said, "The driver is off work." Gong Li, you are fooling the devil. Lu Xiaoli assisted at this time and said, "Don't go back if it's too late. Stay here for one night. My daughter really likes your movies. How about we sleep together and chat at night?" "No. I don't have a room for her to sleep in my house," Chen Myron said in a daze. Gong Li became angry when she heard this, and just as she was about to speak, she saw Chen Lian walking up to Beauty Chen and carrying her upstairs. "I'll take her up first, and you two should go upstairs to take a shower and go to bed." After Chen Lian finished speaking, he carried Beauty Chen upstairs. After throwing her on the bed, he immediately ran out and locked all the doors of several guest rooms. "Don't waste a room. If you have an extra room, turn on an extra light, which is a waste of electricity." Chen Lian is also a very environmentally friendly person. After Gong Li was half pushed and half helped up by Lu Xiaoli, she looked at the doors that could not be opened and immediately knew what Chen Lian was planning. She originally thought that Chen Lian wanted to change rooms to eat secretly at night, but she didn't expect that he planned to cook it all in one pot. "Chen Lian, ask your driver to pick me up, I can't hold on any longer." Late. Chen Lian appeared out of nowhere and carried Gong Li directly to the master bedroom. Lu Xiaoli, an accomplice, helped Gong Li go in together, and finally closed the door thoughtfully. After a while, the sound of poker playing came from inside. "Crushed to death. No, no more. I want it, I can still want it. There will be another chapter later." Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 450. Chapter 436-435. Who slandered me? The summer morning breeze carries a hint of coolness, the white window screens are gently blown up, and the air conditioner that has been running all night also gets a short rest. The room was brightly illuminated by the sun. Chen Lian stretched himself and looked at the beautiful scenery in the room, feeling that life was so beautiful. Gong Li grabbed a blanket and sat up from the bed. Her mind was still a little confused. Before she could recover, she felt someone hugging her waist. When she turned around, she found that the person holding her was Myron Chen. Chen Myron was sleeping soundly, holding Gong Li's waist with both hands and feeling extremely comfortable. Gong Li's brain came to her senses, and she felt mixed emotions in her heart. Although it was not the first time she played such a ridiculous game with Chen Lian with others, she still couldn't accept seeing Beauty Chen. "We have been fighting for several years, but why are we sleeping in the same bed?" Gong Li felt like she was going crazy when she thought of last night's scene. Why did I still grab it with Myron Chen? I really wanted to slap myself twice. Why was I so greedy and insisted on grabbing it? Gong Li licked her lips subconsciously, and suddenly felt her eyes darken. When she raised her head, she realized that Chen Lian was standing in front of her. "Wake up, what time is your flight?" Chen Lian wrapped his fingers around Gong Li's hair and said, "I'll take you to the airport." Looking at the naked Chen Lian, Gong Li suddenly felt aggrieved and raised her hand to pinch his waist. Chen Lian gritted his teeth in pain, but did not dare to resist. He had taken so many advantages last night, so he had better behave today. After all, he was still thinking about the next time. Gong Li looked at Chen Lian's bad guy, raised her little hand and slapped him with a moderate force. Although it didn't hurt, it made Chen Lian furious. Gong Li looked at the angry Chen Lian, snorted and was about to get up to wash up, when she was held down by the shoulders and gagged. "No, Chen Lian!" Gong Li angrily patted Chen Lian on the back and pushed him, but after pushing him back and forth a few times, she gave up resisting. "Forget it, I didn't grab Chen Myron last night, so it's not impossible to make up for it today." After a while, Chen Myron opened her eyes in a daze. When she looked up, she saw Gong Li eating secretly early in the morning. Her confused mind made her memory still linger on last night, and she subconsciously sat up to fight with Gong Li got up. Chen Lian stood there and looked at Mei Chen and Gong Li who were fighting for each other. He couldn't help but take a breath. How come these two people had to fight for everything? Forget it, let them grab it, all I can do is not help anyone. After a while, Lu Xiaoli, who had gotten up early and made breakfast, opened the door and came in. She blushed when she saw the scene inside. Why were they arguing again this early in the morning? Chen Lian turned to look at Lu Xiaoli and said, "Do you want to come together?" Lu Xiaoli glanced at it and twisted her leg, walked over with broken steps and joined in the fight between Chen Mei and Gong Li. The most important thing in life is to be gregarious. The beautiful morning was spent in such a busy way, and it was already past 2 o'clock in the afternoon when Chen Lian sent Gong Li to the airport. In the waiting room of the airport, Gong Li hugged her daughter and coaxed her, while telling Chen Lian what to pay attention to when raising a baby. After chattering for a long time, it was time to board the plane. Gong Li waved goodbye to Chen Lian and his daughter and left. The eldest princess watched her mother's figure disappear from the passage. She looked at Chen Lian with her small mouth depressed and asked, "Dad, when will Mom come back?" Chen Lian hugged her and coaxed with a smile, "I'll be back in 2 days. How about Daddy taking Mengli to play with her these 2 days?" Oh, the eldest princess looked at Chen Lian and asked, "Can Daddy tell stories?" "Yes, what story does Mengli want to hear?" "The story of a prince and a princess." "Okay, then Daddy will tell you the story of the princess and the seven dwarfs." Raising children is not an easy task. It is not physically tiring, but it is mentally tiring. Children have too many problems. In the studio, Bo Qing looked at Chen Mengli that Chen Lian had thrown to him, and felt that he didn't know where to put his hands. "What is this, stepmother?" Chen Mengli blinked her big eyes and looked at the beautiful ant in front of her, and stretched out her little hand to grab her hair. Bewildered, Bai Qing pinched the ends of her hair and handed it to Chen Mengli's little hand, and then couldn't help but poke her white and tender little face. Chen Mengli suddenly giggled, and Bo Qing couldn't help but laugh too when she saw the child's innocent smile. "It seems good to have a child." Bai Qing reached out and held Chen Mengli into his arms, letting her play with his hair and rub against his chest. "Xiang Xiang," Chen Mengli said cutely while lying in Bai Qing's arms. Chen Lian, who was returning to the studio to get materials, came out of the studio and saw the scene and felt it was quite warm, so he walked over and said, "Do you like children?" Bai Qing was stunned for a moment, nodded and then shook his head quickly. Chen Lian raised his eyebrows in surprise. This was the first time he saw Bai Qing be so coy. It seemed that he really liked children. Chen Lian did not dwell on this topic too much. He bent down and pinched his daughter's cheek and said, "How about you play with Ant here? Dad has to go out to do some work. Can I come back to pick you up after work?" Oh, Chen Mengli didn't even look at Chen Lian, but lay in Bai Qing's arms and rubbed against her. Bai Qing was so embarrassed that he blushed and said to Chen Lian, "Then you come back early, I won't take care of the child." Chen Lian couldn't help laughing when he saw Bai Qing's helpless look. "I trust you." Bai Qing breathed an inexplicable sigh of relief when he saw Chen Lian leaving. He looked down at Chen Mengli, who was bouncing in his arms, and couldn't help but smile. "Baby, are you hungry? Do you want to eat?" Baby, do you want some water? Baby, can I teach you how to draw? After Chen Lian got the materials and returned to the exhibition hall, he looked at the work that was about to be completed, and began to look forward to what the work would look like in the end. I have been busy for so long and it is finally almost finished. Chen Lian climbed up the ladder and began to complete the final installation. A huge device supported by wax of various shapes, it looks like a building, and the exterior is covered with glittering gold foil and looks extremely brilliant. What supports this building is inconspicuous wax. These waxes are inconspicuous little people in different shapes. Chen Lian was riding on the ladder and was busy with the finishing work. He didn't finish the final work until it was getting dark outside. Chen Lian jumped down from the ladder, looked at the work in front of him and exhaled slowly. Done, Director Yang's voice suddenly came from behind Chen Lian. Chen Lian turned his head and looked over and said with relief, "It's done, I can finally breathe a sigh of relief." Curator Yang looked at him and said with a smile, "Are you under a lot of pressure? I think you are quite relaxed during this time." "I feel a lot of pressure." Chen Lian wiped his sweat and said, "I don't dare to be too involved, otherwise the negative energy will explode." Curator Yang frowned slightly, and after thinking for a moment, he understood what Chen Lian meant by negative energy. "This work of yours has gained more depth. To be precise, you have broken away from the previous attitude of looking down and started to truly examine society and life. You have really grown a lot." Chen Lian laughed and said, "Maybe after hanging out with those underground directors for a long time, I started to pay attention to individual destiny. Well, yes, this work is very meaningful. I am looking forward to the moment when it is lit up." Curator Yang patted Chen Lian happily and said, "Now that we are done, let's have a drink together in the evening. Next time, I have to take care of the children these 2 days, so I don't have time." Chen Lian said regretfully. It was a pity for Director Yang that he missed another opportunity to drink openly. It was getting late, so he might as well go home and eat noodles. "By the way, when are you going to exhibit?" Before Curator Yang left, he suddenly remembered that he hadn't asked the question yet. "I'll check the weather forecast when I go back in the evening and choose a time with good weather." "Okay, we need to promote it in advance, so hurry up." Curator Yang left with a word of warning. Chen Lian simply packed up and left. He still had to pick up the children. When Chen Lian returned to the studio, he saw Bo Qing holding the eldest princess and falling asleep on the lounge chair in the yard. Several plates of mosquito coils were burned under the lounge chair. Chen Lian walked over lightly and saw his daughter sleeping soundly on Bai Qing's chest without any image, and his mouth watered. Bai Qing also slept soundly, with a faint smile on his lips. Chen Lian looked at the two people who were sweating slightly on their foreheads, then quietly walked into the room and took out an electric fan and turned it on to one setting to blow on them. Perhaps because he had nothing to worry about, Chen Lian also became more relaxed, lying on the other side and fell asleep with his eyes closed. In the next 2 days, Chen Lian checked the weather forecast, decided on the launch time, and began to make arrangements for the launch. This exhibition is different from the past. It only lasts for 1 hour. If you want to see the exhibition, you only have this chance, so you have to invite people in the circle in advance. Artists and critics at home and abroad have sent out invitations in advance, and Chen Lian doesn't care whether they come or not. This time's work is a consumable product. Chen Lian still needs to record it, so he has to find a professional to take it. Chen Lian thought of Zhang Wen first. "The last time we worked together in Tokyo was very good. Besides, Chen Lian invested so much money in Zhang Wen's movie, and it still can't pass the review, but he can't be allowed to work for free." When Zhang Wen came to see Chen Lian, his face was haggard and angry. His beard had not been shaved for many days. As soon as he saw Chen Lian and Zhang Wen, he couldn't help but complain, "I've revised it 7 or 8 times, but it still hasn't passed the review. If you can't pass it, don't change it." But you have to think clearly about whether you want to participate in the film festival. The higher UPS will definitely not allow you to screen it abroad. Chen Lian had known about this result for a long time and had tried to persuade him at the time, but Zhang Wen didn't listen. Having said that, if he could listen, he wouldn't be Zhang Wen. I have to go, Zhang Wen snorted and said, if you don't let me go, I have to go. Okay, I wish you good luck. Chen Lian didn't say anything else. He would admit that he was banned later. However, being banned from directing for 5 years was quite miserable. Of course, what was even worse was that Lu Chuan had to cry and accuse Zhang Wen in front of reporters. Chen Lian couldn't help but laugh when he thought of this. It was so miserable for a big man to be bullied. But this kid Lu Chuan is pretty good at it, and he has a pretty good girlfriend. Chen Lian handed Zhang Wen a cigarette and said, you have to take a good photo of me this time, as if you are compensating for my investment losses. Zhang Wen nodded and said while smoking, next time I will make a profitable movie for you. It's not important, it doesn't cost much anyway, Chen Lian said nonchalantly. Big dog, Zhang Wen couldn't help but curse. How dare you scold the sponsor's father? Go away, don't take advantage of me. After Chen Lian and Zhang Wen chatted for a while, they talked about the most popular TV show recently. Zhang Wen put out the cigarette butt in his hand and said, what do you think of doing this talent show? It's quite interesting. I heard that CCTV's ratings have almost been refreshed. Oh, it's to advertise my company. Chen Lian hasn't paid attention to this program recently, and he doesn't know how it is doing now. Zhang Wen was used to Chen Lian's pretentiousness. He touched his chin and said, yesterday in the first round of the finals, the singers from Wanwan and Xiangjiang were very strong, but our mainland players were not so good, but they were still from Japan and Korea. What's even more interesting is that you can sing and dance at the same time. Chen Lian didn't even know who the contestants were, so he asked curiously, what's their name? Zhang Wen recalled for a while and said, I don't remember much. I just remember that there was a singer named Stephanie Sun who sang very well, but there was a very sexy contestant in Korea named Cai Yan. Chen Lian, why did Sun Yanzi come to participate in the draft? Shouldn't he be signing a contract to prepare for his debut? Also, isn't Zhang Wen's focus on something wrong? What the hell is sexy? Zhang Wen bumped Chen Lian's arm and said, have you never gone to see them? There are so many beautiful girls, and you're not attracted to them. I don't have time. I just finished composing. Chen Lian yawned and said, besides, I don't know how to sing, so I have no interest in this program. Zhang Wen said with regret, I'm still going to let you take me to see it. Have you got any crooked thoughts? Chen Lian said angrily. Zhang Wen chuckled and said, how can I compare with you? It is said outside that you are choosing a concubine for yourself. Gan. Who the hell slandered me again? Chen Lian cursed angrily. Zhang Wen laughed and said, it's all been slandered anyway, so go back and take a look, otherwise it will be a big thank you. I'm not going. It's too late for Chen Lian to avoid suspicion now, so how can he move forward? At worst, let them take the initiative to see him. Teacher Chen would never take the initiative anyway. In the evening, Chen Lian made a special trip to Li Bingbing's place, mainly because he wanted to hear Li Shue's work report and see how the show was going. Li Shue was still very professional at work. She looked at Chen Lian and said, there are 3 contestants in each region who have entered the finals. Currently, there are a total of 6 regions and 18 contestants have entered the finals. The assembly was just completed yesterday. The next issue the campaign officially begins. Let me take a look at the list. Chen Lian was a little curious about who the contestants were, and he might find some surprises. Li Shui immediately pulled out the list and handed it to Chen Lian. Chen Lian looked at the list and immediately saw several familiar names. Sun Yanzi, Angela Chang, Mike Riki, Cai Yan, Quan Bauer, Jolin Tsai. Chen Lian didn't expect that a talent show would bring out so many popular singers after the millennium, but after thinking about it, it wasn't surprising. Most of these singers debuted in singing competitions, so it seems reasonable to appear now. This show is a bit interesting, and Chen Lian feels that he should pay more attention to it later. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 451. Chapter 437-436. Please call me Master of Candle Art. It was crazy hot in Beijing in early September, and Chen Lian felt that he couldn't live without an air-conditioned room. However, the weather is suitable for him to exhibit his works. The date has been chosen and it will be officially exhibited next Saturday. There was still a week left before the official exhibition, and Chen Lian just took this opportunity to be lazy. Chen Lian stared at the scorching sun and came to the princess's courtyard. As soon as he entered the room, the cold air released by the air conditioner made his limbs feel comfortable. Just lie down, I don't want to do anything else. The air conditioner was blowing, and a pair of small hands gently pressed on Chen Lian's temples. Chen Lian turned over, looked at her and asked, "What have you been doing recently? Have you released another album? You're just eating at home and waiting to die, and you don't come to see me." The princess snorted and couldn't help but knock Chen Lian and said, "You really don't know what I've been doing recently." Chen Lian has been so busy lately that he really doesn't know what the princess is doing. He lay on her lap and rubbed it and said, "I've been too busy recently and haven't paid much attention to things outside." The princess snorted, flicked his forehead with her finger and said, "I'll work for you. I'm a judge on Asia Star." Chen Lian raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "I would have forgotten it if you didn't tell me. It's my fault. I know you don't take me to heart at all. You will come to see me when we record the show." The princess bent down and looked into Chen Lian's eyes and said, "I heard that you're good sisters and sisters. I have been spreading scandals with you recently." Chen Lian got a headache when he said this, and said helplessly, "They are just idle, don't you also want to hype it up?" "I'm not that boring." The princess kissed Chen Lian on the face and said, "I just want to tell them that no one knows about my relationship with you except my brother." Chen Lian rubbed his nose and said, "Okay, I'll go visit the show next time. Next Wednesday, you will accompany me to the program group in the evening. As a judge, I also work as a mentor." After finishing speaking, the princess patted her forehead and said, "By the way, I have something to give you." Chen Lian sat up curiously and asked, "What is it?" "Brother asked me to bring it to you. You will know later." The princess smiled and jumped off the sofa. Her little feet looked extremely sexy on the smooth floor. Chen Lian's eyes followed her little feet, and he didn't look away until she walked into the room. After a while, the princess came out. She ran out with a notepad in her hand and handed it to Chen Lian and said, "This is it." Chen Lian took it and took a look at it and was speechless. There was a list written in the notebook, including a menu and a purchase list of specialty products. "No, what does this mean?" Chen Lian looked at the princess in confusion and said. The princess smiled and said, "My brother is also a judge of Asia Star, but he has returned to Xiangjiang after recording an episode. His new album is about to be released. I told you to prepare it next time when I come to record the show." Chen Lian, "You're really rude. You can win all his money by playing mahjong later." The princess sat next to Chen Lian and explained, "He is really busy this year. Some time ago, he even filmed a movie for a director for free." Chen Lian heard about this and asked casually, "Is it an activity of the Creative Alliance? He has approached me before." "Yes, the film market in Xiangjiang has been in a slump since last year, and many people have been unable to work." The princess knew very well, and said with emotion, "The entertainment industry in Xiangjiang is also going to be lonely. Chen Lian threw the notebook aside and said, "This is inevitable. The place is so small, and the film market relies entirely on Taiwan and Southeast Asia. Loneliness is inevitable. I heard that many directors and screenwriters from Xiangjiang have come to the mainland recently." "Have you hired a lot of people?" the princess asked curiously. Chen Lian nodded and said, "It's not about poaching people, they are here to make a living, I just give them a bite to eat." When the princess heard Chen Lian's domineering words, she couldn't help covering her mouth and laughing and said, "I forgot that you are already a rich man. I still remember that when you went to Xiangjiang a few years ago, the paparazzi called you a mainlander. Times are developing, and now the situation has been reversed," Chen Lian said with a smile. "I can now scold them for being street boys." "Haha, you are overthinking it. Those people in Xiangjiang are so arrogant. You think they are here to make a living, but others don't think so." The princess is very clear about the virtues of those people. Even if they can't afford food or buy a house, they still feel that they are superior to others. Chen Lian thought for a while, and it was really like this. Xiangjiang is so skinny that a camel is bigger than a horse. The development of the entertainment industry is several streets ahead of that in the mainland. Even if you come to the mainland to make a living, you are still superior. If nothing else, the stars in Xiangjiang are far more famous than the stars in the mainland. In addition, the entertainment industry in the mainland is not strong, and I always want to lick them, and I praise those people too highly. Chen Lian thought about it for a while and decided that he should talk to Li Shui later and ask her to pay attention to the impact in this regard. Movies don't have to make money, but they can't blindly pressure mainland actors to support Hong Kong actors. Chen Lian recalled the movies co-produced between the mainland and Hong Kong after the turn of the millennium, and few of them did well at the box office. There is no use in praising them, it is better not to praise them. "What are you thinking about?" the princess touched Chen Lian and asked curiously. "I always feel like you are holding something back." "Am I that kind of person?" Chen Lian denied unhappily. The princess pouted and said, "Yes. When we first met, she tried to seduce me." "Nonsense, you obviously took the initiative." "Bah, you tell yourself whether you deliberately seduced me by singing and flexing your muscles." "I didn't." "You're talking nonsense. You put on stockings to seduce me first." The princess snorted, raised her silk leg and rubbed it against Chen Lian's leg and said, "Is this how to seduce you?" "Chen Lian, no, go up a little higher and raise your legs a little higher." The princess smiled charmingly, lifted her legs up again, tapped Chen Lian with her toes and said, "Is that so?" Chen Lian looked at the princess's straight and slender legs, stretched out his hand to hold her little feet and said, "That's it? Come, let me check the quality of your silk." The princess rolled her eyes at Chen Lian, pushed him down on the sofa, raised her foot and stepped on him and said, "Check your height. Just be obedient today." I don't know how long it took, but Chen Lian couldn't help but smile proudly. After resting for a while, the princess regained some strength, sat up and looked at Chen Lian and said, "Don't men become less capable as they get older?" Chen Lian rolled his eyes at her and said, "Who are you calling old? When you are 30, you will be old." The princess snorted and said, "Then when you are old, see how I bully you." "Stop dreaming, you will never have this chance in your life." Chen Lian put his arms around the princess's waist and said, "No way, how could it be possible?" Hearing Chen Lian's words, the princess looked at him and asked curiously, "What kind of work did you create this time? Explosion or garbage?" Chen Lian hugged the princess and sat on the sofa and said, "Candle, please call me the master of candle art now." "What's so fun about candles?" the princess said without interest. Chen Lian chuckled and said, "You look down on candles, don't you? Just wait for me." Chen Lian left the princess on the sofa and ran to find candles. He remembered that there were scented candles in the princess's bedroom. After a while, Chen Lian came out with a candle. Looking at the princess lying enchantingly on the sofa, he said, "Let you see the art of candles. Feel the charm of art carefully." Chen Lian lit the candle as he spoke, and the red candle instantly melted into wax oil. The princess lay on the sofa and watched Chen Lian's performance quietly, curious about what his candle art was. Chen Lian shook the scented candle, and after waiting for more wax oil in the cup, he walked up to the princess and dropped the candle on the floor. Tick. The wax oil instantly bloomed into beautiful flowers on the floor and then solidified into beautiful patterns. Chen Lian poured out a lot of candles before they solidified, like twisting plasticine, pinched out a beautiful flower and handed it to the princess. The princess half squinted her eyes, took the flower and carefully felt the remaining warmth on the flower. The warm touch and the beautiful flower were so beautiful. This is the flower of art. After an unknown amount of time, the sky outside gradually darkened. When the sun went down and it was no longer so hot, Chen Lian and the princess dressed up and went out together. There was no disguise this time. As soon as Chen Lian left the alley, he felt someone following him. Needless to say, they knew it was the paparazzi. In the eyes of the paparazzi, the princess was just walking news. Chen Lian sat in the car and glanced back, turned to the princess and said, "It seems to have been photographed." "I'll take it if I can," the princess said nonchalantly. Chen Lian hummed and didn't take the matter to heart, as long as he didn't rush over and chase him for an interview. Chen Lian didn't really like being chased by reporters for interviews. As for sneak shots and so on, just let them go and don't disturb him. The princess's attention was not on the paparazzi at all. She didn't dare to lean on the seat when she was sitting in the car. Her back was straight and she looked quite nervous. Art is not that easy to experience, so people with tender skin should not try it easily. The car drove to the CCTV building as usual. The princess was going to give instructions to the students and make a behind-the-scenes video as a preview. Originally, she had no interest in this kind of program. If it weren't for Chen Lian's sake, she wouldn't have participated. But she didn't expect that Chen Lian would forget that she was on the show. She really wanted to cut him in half. Chen Lian looked at the CCTV building getting closer and closer, and sent a text message to Li Shui. After learning that she was at CCTV now, he put down his phone. Now all Li Shui's thoughts are on the program Asia Star, which is a huge talent show that has shocked the whole of Asia. If it is done well, the company will become a well-known company in Asia. Li Shui attaches great importance to this program. This is a program that Chen Lian and Li Fujian used their relationships and status to obtain. She is just an unknown little person. She can fail, but Chen Lian and Li Fujian cannot fail. In the studio of CCTV, Li Shui and Cheng Shifen sat together and discussed with the program's creative team the recording over the next few days, and every detail had to be discussed. During the finals, it was not only broadcast in the mainland, but also broadcast simultaneously in several other participating regions. If it fails, it will be an international disgrace. The director of the program team has filmed many large-scale evening parties, so he is quite experienced, but he is still full of pressure. Cheng Shifen is not that nervous. Both TVB and ATV in Xiangjiang are very casual when putting on such large-scale programs. They focus on relaxed entertainment, which is completely opposite to the rigorous attitude in the mainland. Li Shui looked at Cheng Shifen, who looked relaxed, and admired her for being calm and composed at such a time. Cheng Shifen looked at Li Shui and said, "Xiaoxiu, don't be nervous, the last recording was not very good. Just because the beginning is good, you can't make any mistakes later," Li Shui said with a wry smile, "and recently, many record companies are looking for me and want to arrange a good ranking for their own players. I am almost bored to death." Cheng Shifen glanced at the main creative team of the program and asked them to discuss it among themselves, and then whispered to Li Shui, "Situations like this are very common when making programs, and there is no way to avoid it, but you must be careful not to leave any clues, and the relationship between various companies must be balanced. No, Mr. Chen specifically explained that we are just one program and one platform, and we must be fair and impartial and not involve other interests with the record company. Li Shui explained and then said with some annoyance, but it's a bit difficult to handle. No one believes it when I say it. They think we have already made an informal decision. Cheng Shifen couldn't help but smile and said, haha, if it's not easy to deal with, don't deal with it. Lian is coming over tonight. You let him deal with it? Why should I handle it? I happen to be free. Chen Lian's voice suddenly came from behind the two of them. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 452. Chapter 438-437. Organize a group to meet teacher Chen. In the bustling studio, Chen Lian and the princess attracted a lot of attention as soon as they appeared. Cheng Shifen and others who were chatting in the audience turned to look at them. Lian, long time no see. Cheng Shifen stood up and said with a smile. Chen Lian walked over and hugged her proactively and said, Sister Shifen, long time no see. I have worked hard on you recently. After a few words of greeting, Cheng Shifen took the initiative to introduce the director of the program to him, and they sat down and started chatting. The princess sat next to Chen Lian, and leaning towards Chen Lian made many people feel that they were eating something big. Did the queen and princess get together with Chen Lian? It's really not surprising at all. Neither Chen Lian nor the princess paid much attention to these gossipy looks, nor did they hide the relationship between them. Backstage in the studio, news of the arrival of Chen Lian and the princess also spread, and many contestants who were preparing for rehearsals couldn't help running over to take a peek. The majority of the contestants in the finals are Chinese. Even the short-listed contestants from Singapore are all Chinese, and they all gather together to gossip quietly. There are only a few Japanese and Korean players who seem the most lonely, but they can also speak a few words in Chinese and interrupt from time to time to participate in gossip. From these players, we can also see the influence of Chinese culture. There is no country in Southeast Asia that is not affected by Chinese culture. Sun Yanzi is the champion of the division from the Singapore division. She has a better relationship with Angela Chang, who is younger than her, and they got together to discuss Chen Lian and the princess in a low voice. Sun Yanzi and Angela Chang are 3 years apart in age, but their experiences are quite similar. They are both foreign Chinese, and both are currently studying and have participated in singing competitions. The biggest difference between the two may be that Sun Yanzi is more talented, while Angela Zhang is an acquired singer, but they are both capable singers. It is quite strange to say that the music development in the 3 places across the Taiwan Strait is very different. Wanwan has the most kings and queens of singers, followed by Xiangjiang, and finally the mainland. There have been no new singers from the mainland in the past few years. The music market is completely dominated by singers from Wanwan and Xiangjiang. Maybe it's also because there are no good record companies in the mainland. Popular music in the mainland developed relatively late, so it's normal for it to lag behind. It is quite strange to say that record companies such as Polygram and Universal, as well as Warner and Rolling Stone, are not doing very well in the mainland. Different social environments lead to completely different directions in popular music. While others are playing with pop and individuality, mainland China is still singing into a new era. However, after entering the new era, the mainland music scene has indeed undergone earth-shaking changes. To be precise, Chen Lian's Asian Star program has changed the current development of the music scene. Even if there are no outstanding mainland contestants this year, there will definitely be next year. It takes time for everyone to become familiar with new things. This year, we will watch the show first, and next year we will participate in the show. Chen Lian was chatting casually with the princess and the others over there, and did not notice that on the other side of the studio, the contestants with record companies had been called away by their managers. These record companies attach great importance to their programs, and the ones they release are all newcomers that the company is about to release. Producing records for newcomers is very risky, and even if you spend a lot of money, you may not be able to become popular. It's different if you participate in such a highly exposed program. It doesn't cost money to participate in the program. If you get a ranking, you will become an instant star. It can be said that all the players who have reached the finals are already popular. Who is not the top 3 in the division? However, being popular in your own territory and being popular in Asia are two different concepts. Who doesn't want their artist to become famous all over Asia? Then whether we can reach the end in the finals is the key. The record companies behind these contestants have been looking for Li Shui during this period in order to hope that their singers can get better rankings. But Li Shui is too difficult to conquer. Don't give gifts or invite people to dinner or go. Just one sentence back and forth, our program is fair and just. Not many people believe this when I say it. The only ones who believe it are the players from the mainland. Because they really came up based on their strength. The record companies behind those players, now that they saw Chen Lian's appearance, they all had their minds set on Chen Lian. Li Shui has no shortcomings in not having enough money, and you, Chen Lian, don't have any. You are a prodigal, a scumbag, and a pervert. You are full of flaws. The melon-eating contestants backstage in the studio were all called back by their managers, and they were almost all saying the same thing. An agent from Universal Music Bay branch looked at Jolin Tsai and said, "Lian Chen is here, come say hello to me later, and be sure to perform well." The audition competition is not just about singing. Jolin Tsai smiled and joked, "Does it mean the unspoken rules? If it were Chen Lian, I would." What are you thinking about? It's your turn for such a good thing. Is it that exaggerated? Let's wait until you become a queen like the princess one day. First, go put on your makeup and change your clothes. Chen Lian likes women with personality. By the way, remember to wear high heels. Any manager who has been in the industry for so long is not a good person. It is not easy to deal with people like Chen Lian and send players to their beds. This circle is very realistic, and sometimes even if you want people to follow unspoken rules, you may not be favored. It is possible to get closer to people by first becoming familiar with them, and then through the relationship with the company or acquaintances. Of course, the premise of all this is that you can catch people's eyes, so the first impression is very important. In the dressing room backstage, Jolin Tsai was probably the one who arrived late, as several contestants were already touching up their makeup. Because it is a rehearsal, there are no makeup artists here today. The contestants are all retouching their own makeup or asking their assistants to do it. Jolin Tsai glanced around and took the initiative to sit next to Angela Zhang. The two of them were newcomers to a record company. Angela Chang was originally a newcomer to the Polygram subsidiary, but now that Polygram has been acquired by Universal, she is naturally considered a part of Universal. After Jolin Tsai sat down, she looked at Angela Zhang, who was 2 years younger than herself, and said, "Your agent also wants to take you to meet Chen Lian. The same goes for you, and you have no choice. Why don't you feel happy?" "I really want to get to know Chen Lian," Jolin Tsai said with a smile. Angela Zhang pursed her lips and didn't say anything. She just hadn't adapted to the circle yet. She always felt like a commodity, packaging herself beautifully and sending it out for people to choose from. The two Korean girls not far away were not in such a mood, but felt a little nervous. They know the power of rich people in South Korea, and people like Chen Lian are too dangerous in their eyes. As for being favored by Chen Lian, they couldn't even think about it. The gap was too big. The 3 new eldest princesses are all Chen Lian. As a small artist like me, who belongs to the Li Family Edge Company, don't dream of being able to rely on others. Just go over and say hello respectfully later and come back. Cai Yan and Quan Bo looked at each other and could see each other's thoughts. Although they were not from the same company, they were both Koreans. When they came to China to participate in a show, they could not avoid hugging each other for warmth. Want to go together? Cai Yan asked proactively. Quan Bao nodded and said, let's go together. After the two left, the other people in the dressing room immediately speeded up. This kind of thing should be done sooner rather than later. Outside the studio, Chen Lian turned to look at the princess and said, aren't you here to guide the rehearsal? Why are you still sitting here? Go early and come back early to play mahjong with Sister Shifen in the evening. The princess crossed her legs and glanced at the empty stage and said, no one has come out to rehearse yet. They are probably still preparing. The director smiled next to him and said, it's almost time. I'll hurry up. That's all thanks to the director, Chen Lian said politely. The director smiled and got up and walked backstage. He happened to meet Cai Yan and Quan Bao coming together. Cai Yan and Quan Bao took the initiative to say hello to the director and walked towards Chen Lian. The director watched them go by and couldn't help but tisk, envious of Chen Lian. Li Shui noticed the two people walking over and turned to Chen Lian and said, Mr. Chen, a player is here. Do you want to meet him? When Chen Lian heard this, he turned around and looked over. When he saw it was Cai Yan and Quan Bao, he nodded and said, you're all here, let's meet. Chen Lian is actually quite strange. Cai Yan's company is CJ Entertainment, which is also owned by the Sangzhen family, but the relationship between CJ and Sangzhen is not very good. He can't understand why CJ would arrange for its artists to participate in Li Fuzhen's show. Korea's chaebol relationships are intricately intertwined, and it's hard to tell what the twists and turns are. Maybe they don't have a good relationship on the surface, but they are wearing a pair of trousers behind their backs. The development directions of CJ and Sangzhen are almost all staggered, and there is almost no competition. It is estimated that they still have a good relationship behind the scenes. Chen Lian had heard Li Fuzhen say before that Sangzhen had taken action against CJ during the financial crisis, and he didn't know if he secretly took over CJ's shares. As for Quan Bo's SM Entertainment, it has a good relationship with several chaebols, but there is no obvious affiliation, which is quite interesting. Let's go back and ask Li Fuzhen what Sangzhen's plans are for the Korean entertainment industry. This girl has been busy in New York recently dealing with the launch of Magic Flute Music. The capital on Wall Street hopes that Magic Flute Music can be listed this year. Now, Magic Flute Music has more and more users due to the hot sales of players, and its income is also rising. Although the profitability is not exaggerated, it is very healthy. Compared with those internet companies that have no profitability yet, they are more secure and promising. Coupled with the huge response caused by Asian stars in Asia now, Magic Flute Music will make a lot of money as long as it goes on the market. But Chen Lian always felt that Wall Street shareholders felt the arrival of the internet bubble and hoped to make another big profit before the bubble burst. Chen Lian also plans to take this opportunity to make a fortune. After finishing his domestic affairs, he will also go to New York for a tour. Making money is very important. The last time a girl was given 880,000 yuan, she was almost broke. If she is given 8.88 million yuan in the future, she will not be able to mortgage her shares. The princess looked at Chen Lian, who was in a daze and couldn't help but poke him, and said, he's been hooked before he even comes over. I thought of something else. Chen Lian looked at Cai Yan and Quan Bao walking over, turned to the princess and asked, which one of them sings better? The princess thought for a moment and said, Cai Yan is better, but I think the strongest ones are Japan's Mikuriki and Singapore's Sun Yanzi. Chen Lian hummed. This was pretty much what he thought. At this time, Cai Yan and Quan Bao had already walked up to Chen Lian, bowing respectfully to say hello. Chen Lian just nodded slightly and looked up and down. He felt that Quan Bao was better looking, but Cai Yan had a better figure. Chen Lian still remembers watching Cai Yan's MV of two people, which is simply synonymous with sexy and hot. The two girls looked at Chen Lian nervously at this time, trying hard to show their smiles. Although I don't expect Chen Lian to like me, but if he is really taken by him, wouldn't it be like reaching the sky in one step? Will everyone call Li Fu really sister when they see her in the future? Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 453. Chapter 439-438. My rules are rules. In the noisy studio, the sound of sound debugging and the voices of staff talking mixed together, making it seem extremely busy. People walking back and forth looked very busy. Only the auditorium directly opposite the stage was unusually quiet, and the staff would actively avoid that area. Such an atmosphere made Cai Yan and Quan Bao feel a huge psychological pressure. There was still a trace of fantasy in their minds, but now they have been forgotten. Being favored? Stop dreaming, don't spoil it, and the first impression will be good. Chen Lian looked at Cai Yan and Quan Bao, who were a little nervous, and said with a smile on his face, "I'm glad to meet you. Work hard in the competition. Try to get a good result." After saying that, Chen Lian stopped looking at them. Cai Yan and Quan Bao breathed a sigh of relief and quickly bowed to leave. The two girls turned around and left as if they were being pardoned. The princess couldn't help but smile and said, "You really have the majesty of a superior now, but are you too cold? If I get too enthusiastic, a lot of people will probably think nonsense. I don't want to cause trouble for myself." After Chen Lian explained casually, he looked at Li Shui and asked, "Look back and be careful, don't spread any gossip." Li Shui agreed immediately. This point must be paid attention to. As long as Chen Lian has anything to do with women, it will cause all kinds of gossip and speculation from the media and paparazzi. If you don't pay attention to the impact, a good program might be rumored to be a concubine selection. Isn't this the case with the previous Miss Universe contest? At that time, Chen Lian was very careful about his influence and never participated in the contest. He only took those models to participate in the fashion week after the contest, which caused many people's misunderstandings and gossip speculation in the media. This time the Asian Star program is even more popular and there must be no negative news. You still know how to pay attention to the impact. I thought you didn't care about anything, the princess said to Chen Lian with a smile. How can a person be completely free in life? Chen Lian shrugged his shoulders. When he saw a few more contestants coming over, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and said, "Today they all came to worship the mountain." The princess followed Chen Lian's gaze and said with a smile, "You all want to get good results. This show will directly create stars, and the record company is not stupid." Cheng Shifen also smiled and said, "The influence of Asian stars is too great, which cannot be compared with those small competitions. Lian will definitely become a guest of the record company in the future." Chen Lian smiled and joked, "I am also their guest now, and magic flute music is making money for them." After the joke, Jolin Tsai and Angela Chang also walked up to Chen Lian, with their respective managers accompanying them. "Hello, Mr. Chen, I'm Liang Donghua from Universal Records." "Nice to meet you." Liang Donghua bent over and looked at Chen Lian and stretched out his hand. Chen Lian stretched out his hand to shake it and said, "Hello." Liang Donghua immediately pointed at Jolin Tsai with a smile and said, "This is Jolin Tsai, a newcomer to our company and a contestant of Asian Stars. She admires you and has always wanted to come and get to know you." Jolin Tsai said in a sweet voice, "Hello, Mr. Chen, I am Jolin. Nice to meet you." Chen Lian glanced at Jolin Tsai and nodded slightly. The young Jolin Tsai didn't feel that good looking, but he was really small. He looked like he was 15 or 16 years old wearing high heels. Next to her, Angela Chang's manager also immediately introduced himself, and then introduced Angela Chang to Chen Lian. Angela Chang was not as open-minded as Jolin Tsai, she just introduced herself quietly and said nothing. Chen Lian didn't care either. As a little girl, she probably wasn't used to this kind of situation. After being in the industry for a long time, she would naturally become smoother. The two agents here were still trying to get close to each other, and Sun Yanzi and Mikariki also came over under the leadership of their agents. Chen Lian was immediately surrounded by people. Li Shui saw Chen Lian frowning slightly and knew that he was a little impatient, so he stood up and said, "Everyone, Mr. Chen is here to see you today. You can just rehearse normally. Sister Fei is also waiting to see the contestants rehearse." When several people heard Li Shui say this, they all knew that he was driving people away, and several agents took the people away in a sensible manner. Li Shui looked at their leaving figures and couldn't help but shake her head and said, "I guess they will come back later." Chen Lian chuckled and said, "You can deal with it later, our principles remain unchanged." "I know, but they may target you today. These people are really difficult to deal with. The influence of the company behind them is not small. It's really difficult to deal with." Li Shui smiled and pointed away. "Those few agents who have never left." Chen Lian frowned and said, "That means you didn't refuse firmly enough, so they still have expectations. Only by establishing rules can we avoid these troubles. Sometimes we have to be stronger when doing things. You have to figure out the main point between us and them sub-relationship." Li Shui lowered her head and stopped talking, silently reflecting on herself in her heart. "It's normal for Xiaoxiu to be young and inexperienced." Cheng Shifen smoothed things over with a smile, "I'll talk to them later. Those people are seasoned and difficult to deal with." Li Shui glanced at Cheng Shifen gratefully, turned to Chen Lian and said, "Mr. Chen, I know what to do." Chen Lian looked at Li Shui like this and said nothing. He thought for a moment and said, "Help me invite them to have dinner together, and I will teach you another lesson." "I can do it myself." Li Shui felt a little unconvinced, but stopped mid-sentence, shrank his neck and said, "Okay, I'll make arrangements right away." Watching this scene, the princess couldn't help but pat Chen Lian and said, "Why are you so serious? I think Xiaoxiu did a good job. When I was her age, I didn't have the ability to put on such a big show. You can't handle such a big project now." Chen Lian also knew that Li Shui had done a good job, so he took the initiative to make a joke to lighten the atmosphere. "Get out of here, you're talking about me." The princess hit Chen Lian angrily and said, "I'm going to do my work. I'm annoyed when I see you." Chen Lian smiled as he watched the princess leave. It was quite interesting to hear the queen's words. However, even if Princess Cheng Shifen helps to smooth things over, Chen Lian has no intention of giving up teaching Li Shui a lesson. He is ready to retire and must train Li Shui well before retirement. Chen Lian nodded at Li Shui and said, "Please help me make an appointment for tomorrow night." Li Shui lowered her head and responded, "Okay." Chen Lian hummed and waved to her. Li Shui bit her lip and stood up to go to work. Maybe it was because her relationship with Chen Lian was getting closer, so she subconsciously wanted to get more favoritism instead of the harshness of her superiors and subordinates. Chen Lian can naturally pamper her as a good sister, but since you choose to work and want to control a company, you have to do it well. Lover and strong woman are two different concepts, and Chen Lian will not confuse the concepts in this place. Work is work. You can pamper her in private, but not in business. Cheng Shifen couldn't help laughing when she saw Chen Lian's attitude towards Li Shui. "You are really nice to her and you are willing to teach her step by step." Chen Lian smiled and said, "I just want to be lazy." "No matter what the reason is, she should be grateful to you." Cheng Shifen said with some emotion, "This circle is so unfair to women. There are very few good things to women like you." Sincerely. Chen Lian shrugged and joked, "Sister Shifen, why do you feel like I am a playboy on the inside? Go, 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 there's nothing to do, I'm going to do some work, you can sit here by yourself." Cheng Shifen rolled her eyes at Chen Lian and left. At this time, the lights on the stage just turned on, and Chen Lian's attention also shifted to the stage. Looking at the contestant dressed in simple clothes and slowly coming on stage, Chen Lian felt a little familiar, but he couldn't remember who it was. When the music started and the contestant on the stage started to sing, Chen Lian suddenly felt his eyes light up. He sang very beautifully. The song he chose was The Princess's Sad Woman. It's just that it's different from the princess's singing style, more popular. Chen Lian looked at the player and knew without thinking that he was from the mainland. He felt curious and waved to a staff member. "What's this player's name?" The staff immediately replied, "Fu Ying is a contestant from the mainland. Last year she won the championship in the professional category of CCTV's National Young Singer Grand Prix." Chen Lian raised his eyebrows slightly. "He is a master, but I have never heard of this name." Looking at Fu Ying and Chen Lian on the stage, she always felt familiar. He couldn't remember who she was. Logically speaking, the one she felt familiar to him must be a famous singer, but the name Fu Ying was indeed too unfamiliar. He probably adopted a stage name after his debut. Chen Lian looked carefully for a while and suddenly remembered who this player was, a duo. After thinking about it, Chen Lian couldn't help but sit up and get a little more serious. This show is only the first one. These contestants are really crouching tigers, hidden dragons. Almost all the most popular female singers in the next 10 years will appear in the finals. It is really a fight between gods. This game will definitely become the most legendary game in the Asian music scene. The staff member who was called over by Chen Lian discovered that Chen Lian was very interested in a duo, and he was also thinking about it, wondering whether he should tell the director. So many players came to say hello just now, but Chen Lian just ignored them. This was the first time he took the initiative to ask a player. After thinking for a while, the staff member ran to find the director. Who knows what Chen Lian was thinking? If he had other ideas, it would be better to talk to the director. Chen Lian didn't know that his unintentional move had been misunderstood. When a person reaches a certain height, many unintentional actions will cause people to associate with each other. This is why Chen Lian was reluctant to say too much to the players who came to say hello at first. In case any manager misunderstood, it would be so embarrassing to clean up and pack up his artist and send it to Chen Lian's bed. Do you want to accept it or not? If you refuse, it will hurt the girl's heart. If you don't refuse, it will hurt the girl's body. Alas, the troubles of the great man. Li Shui on the other side was currently communicating with the players' managers that Chen Lian wanted to meet with them privately. After telling them the time and place, Li Shui swung her ponytail and left. Chen Lian was right, he had to be stronger with these people. He was too talkative before and took them too seriously. What happened to foreign record companies? Even if you come to participate in the show, you have to look at our faces. If you can, quit the competition. After the news was announced, the record company managers began to wonder what it meant. The recording would be official in a few days. At this time, Chen Lian asked them to eat. Could it be a hint? At this time, it is inevitable that people can't help but think that several agents are wondering whether Chen Lian is an addict, thinking, ahem, it is definitely not normal to contact them at this time anyway. Some managers accept this kind of news very quickly. It would be great if Chen Lian really means that. It would be better if they can still speculate on the scandal. The popularity of their own artists will take off in no time. However, there are also a few managers who have some troubles. Their artists are still too young. If Chen Lian really wants to unspoken rules, he may not be able to do it. In the end, it will be self-defeating if it is not done well. It's really frustrating. Let's go back and do some work at night. If it doesn't work, then we can only stop here. We can't do it by ourselves. The key is that Chen Lian doesn't like men either. Chen Lian with grandma's legs. Aren't you making things difficult for me? The director of the program team also received the news at this time that Chen Lian wanted to meet the contestants, so he took the initiative to run over and find Li Shui. I heard that Mr. Chen has invited contestants from abroad and Zhang Jiangguan want to have dinner together tomorrow. The director pondered for a moment and said, "Why are there no contestants from the mainland? After all, it is a show hosted by us. What if no contestants from the mainland advance in the end? Can't you make sense?" Li Shui understood what he meant, and explained helplessly, "It's not what you think. Forget it, you can inform the mainland players to join us, so as to save everyone from thinking too much. Mr. Chen is not doing it for the unofficial appointment." The director laughed awkwardly a few times, but he was not sure what it meant. After chatting with Li Shui for a few more words, he ran to inform the contestants from the mainland. As a director, he doesn't care what Chen Lian thinks, but he has to fight for a chance for the mainland players. Even if it is an unspoken rule, it must be fair competition. As for whether the players are willing or not, let them do it. This is the only thing you can do. That night, Chen Lian sat there and watched all the contestants' rehearsals before leaving CCTV. We had a late-night snack together and then went to play mahjong together. I also won hundreds of dollars from Cheng Shifen. Good luck. In the afternoon of the next day, the princess slept in and didn't want to get up. She played mahjong all night last night and was eaten by Chen Lian after breakfast. She just wanted to sleep now. "If you really don't want to go, then I'll go have dinner with those players by myself." "No, you teach Li Shui, what am I going to do? I want to sleep." Chen Lian didn't force it. It was okay if the princess didn't come with him. There were countless reporters waiting for them outside. Yesterday, the paparazzi took photos of him and the princess when they went out together. Today, he and the princess made headlines. A diva, a great artist, full of gimmicks, and they are both people with rich relationship histories. People who like me love watching it the most. Chen Lian simply packed up and went out to meet the players. Let me teach Li Shui a lesson today and let her understand one thing: when your platform is high enough and big enough, no matter who the other party is, as long as they come, they must act according to their own rules. My rules are rules. Even if you want to use the back door, I will use your back door. Bah, 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 that doesn't sound right. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 454. I'm ready to finish. The original plan was to write about 2.5 million words, but the fate of this book was bumpy. It was reported countless times, and I didn't know how many times I made corrections. Sanjiang has been under JB since the new book issue. At that time, the entire book was blocked. Sanjiang was lonely, and the front page promotion was also lonely. It was equivalent to 4 rounds of listings, and it did not get out of the divider. Otherwise, the results of this book would have been better. It makes me heartbroken when I think about it. I originally had the opportunity to sell it as a high-quality product, or even book it with 10,000 orders, but in the end it only stayed at a high-quality product. Maybe it's because I'm out of spirit. It was quite painful to write this book. I changed it almost every month, and I don't know who I offended. Now I want to end this painful fate and let Chen go roam freely in his own world. He has his own destiny. In fact, I don't need to write it. Let him play by himself. However, I will write a sequel after finishing the book, and try to get the word count close to 2 million. Of course, there is also the most important reason. Due to a legal rectification, many of the originally planned outlines were no longer dared to be written. This is also the main reason for wanting to finish it. From the beginning of the book to now, I have revised and adjusted it almost 5 times. This month, I asked for the entire text to be revised. I revised more than 200 chapters. It was really painful. I should have just closed it at the time, but I didn't want to feel sorry for everyone. So I struggled to revise it, and in the end I felt stupid, just a few more chapters were blocked. Writing the next few 100,000 words feels wrong. I can't let go. I want to write but don't dare to write. I feel helpless. I will finish the next 100,000 words normally, and I will speed up the progress slightly and strive for a perfect ending. I feel very sorry for all the adoptive fathers. Maybe I accidentally offended someone, or maybe I wrote too arrogantly. In short, this book is ill-fated. It has been 8 months since I started writing the book. Time flies very fast when I think about it. In these 8 months, I would like to thank you all for your support, voting for me, and giving me rewards. This has allowed me to gain a lot of recognition and appreciation for my career. I also got my first masterpiece. In reality, my past few years have not been great. I can say that I have been a failure. I have failed several times to start a business. I am heavily in debt. I was hit by reality and almost collapsed. This book gave me hope for the future. I made some money from this book and paid off a lot of debt, although it was not completely repaid. Making money is not the most important thing to me. It is to regain the confidence to face my shabby life. It turns out that I am not such a failure. It turns out that I can still write novels and bring some joy and relaxation to everyone. I still remember the day I got my first alliance leader, a reward of 1000 yuan, I jumped up with joy. I really jumped up, not because I made 500 yuan, but because I felt recognized. Someone is willing to spend 1000 yuan to reward me. Maybe this 1000 yuan is just a drop in the bucket to the boss, but to me it is the highlight of my life. Here I would like to express my sincere thanks to Mr. Mew, who quietly occupies the world. Although the boss stopped reading my book later, I will remember it forever. At the same time, I would also like to express my solemn thanks to my biggest benefactor, my father. In 1979, he rewarded me with 2 alliance leaders in total. Donor father, I love you. Thank you for your continued support. Okay, now that I have thanked these 2 sponsors, I would also like to thank the other adoptive fathers. It is you who subscribed again and again with your monthly tickets and gave Lao Zhu high-quality products. It's you who made Lao Zhu feel that the world is worth it and that hard work pays off. To this day, I will never forget the day I got the premium badge. It was an honor and a confirmation. This honor was given to me by all my adoptive fathers, and I would like to give you one here. The high-quality badges are so beautiful. I hope I can get tens of thousands of badges next time. Haha, I have a little dream. Whether I can get closer to a higher level depends on the support of all my adoptive fathers. Cao Zhu hopes that all the adoptive fathers will support me as always. Cao Zhu is here to give another kiss to his adoptive father. As for what to write in my next book, I actually have a lot of ideas. I want to write stories in the 1980s, and I also want to write stories after the millennium. The most important thing is that I want to meet my favorite female star in the book, haha. In fact, I am a pure lover. Unfortunately, I have been led astray by all the adoptive fathers. You have led me astray and made me change into your shape. So you have to be responsible. Be sure to support me in my next book. Otherwise I will call the police. Oh, I forgot to mention, it will be finished on November 8th, a good day specially chosen. I will cry to death. The main text will stay at 1.8 million words, and the extras will be updated from time to time, to make up for 2 million words. There is a high probability that the new book will be released at the same time. When it is finished on the 8th, it will be a different story. I hope all adoptive fathers can continue to support it and have fun reading it. I love you all. Dear foster father. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 455. Chapter 440-439. Press it on the ground and rub it. In the quiet car, Li Shui looked at Chen Lian's profile and whispered, "Mr. Chen, it's time to get off work now." Chen Lian snorted, put his hand on Li Shui's thigh and asked, "Are you unhappy? Do you think what I said yesterday was too harsh?" No. Li Shui took the initiative to lean on Chen Lian's shoulder and said, "There is a distinction between public and private matters, I understand." Chen Lian squeezed Li Shui's soft thigh and said with a smile, "It's good to know. If you want to make a career, I will naturally demand more from you." Li Shui leaned into Chen Lian's arms and said, "Then if I don't want to do anything, will you always pamper me?" Of course. Chen Lian smiled and said, "But you definitely don't want to be a canary." Li Shui snorted and said, "If I were a canary, you wouldn't like me." Chen Lian laughed and said, "How could that be?" Li Shui looked at Chen Lian's expression, blushed, and said, "Are you thinking of any bad ideas?" "Brother-in-law. I didn't say it." "You said it yourself, sister-in-law." Chen Lian hugged Li Shui and said with a smile. Li Shui blushed and asked curiously, "What do my sisters call you when we are in private?" "Brother-in-law." "Abnormal. You're not a pervert if you call me brother-in-law, are you?" "That's not because you like it?" There's nothing wrong with you saying that." Chen Lian doesn't think he is a pervert, this is just a flirting role-playing. "Yes, that's it." The meeting place for those players and managers was at the Kunlun Hotel where Chen Lian often went. Chen Lian didn't think Kunlun was that good, but he was used to it, and it was a super big customer, so his privacy could be guaranteed. Chen Lian dated many girls in Kunlun, and not once was there any scandal. For this reason, Chen Lian will always choose Kunlun. In a private box in Kunlun, Asia's players and their managers all arrived. Of course, there are also some mainland players who have no agents and come alone. Jolin Tsai sat next to her manager and asked in a low voice, "It feels a bit strange today. Why are everyone here?" The agent is also a little confused and can't figure out what the situation is now. This is different from what he imagined. "I'm not sure either. Let's take a step and see." They didn't wait long, and soon there were footsteps outside the private room. Outside the private room door, the restaurant manager asked respectfully, "Mr. Chen, your guests have arrived. Do you want to start serving food now?" Chen Lian nodded and walked towards the private room. Li Shui pushed open the private room door first. Chen Lian's pace was not affected or paused at all. The restaurant manager looked at the slowly closing door and couldn't help but smacked his lips. What a good secretary. Everyone in the private room stood up subconsciously when they saw Chen Lian coming in. The originally relaxed atmosphere instantly became tense and cramped. Chen Lian looked at them and pressed his hands and said, "Sit down, everyone. Today is a private party, no need to be restrained." Li Shui stood behind Chen Lian and felt a little proud when she saw that the managers who had been pestering him didn't even dare to sit down now. Where has the shameless energy gone? Why don't you dare to show it in front of Chen Lian? Chen Lian stood there and looked at them. He did not sit down himself, and others did not dare to sit down. Angela Zhang originally wanted to sit down after hearing Chen Lian's words, but was stopped by her agent. Silly, Chen Lian didn't even sit down. The boss didn't sit down, so how could the younger brother sit down? Chen Lian stood there without speaking or moving for more than 10 seconds, and everyone was extremely nervous. People in Xiangjiang and Wanwan have all heard of Chen Lian's glorious deeds. People in Xiangjiang say that Chen Lian is subversive, which makes them feel a little scared. Those in Japan and South Korea feel a little better. We see this kind of situation more often. In Japan and South Korea, the dignity of superiors and inferiors is much more serious than this. Those players from the mainland felt extremely regretful. They would not have come if they had known about it. They felt that nothing good would happen tonight. The atmosphere in the private room was very anxious. When Chen Lian turned his head slightly, Li Shui stood up from behind Chen Lian, walked to the host's seat and pulled out a chair. After Chen Lian walked over and sat down, he looked at the group of people still standing and said with a smile, "Everyone, sit down, stop standing." Seeing Chen Lian sit down, those people were relieved and they all sat down, but no one dared to sit next to Chen Lian. Chen Lian finally figured out the cultural dregs. He originally just wanted to give the players and people from record companies outside the mainland a showdown, but who would have thought that players from the mainland would also come? It was purely an accidental injury. After everyone sat down, Chen Lian leaned on the chair and tapped the table with his fingers. The private room that was still noisy suddenly fell into silence again, and everyone focused their attention on Chen Lian. Chen Lian looked at them and said, "We all came from thousands of troops in various competition regions, and we all want to achieve good results in the finals." As he spoke, Chen Lian lit a cigarette, looked at the faces and continued, "Everyone wants to be famous and become a big star, so it is inevitable that they will have other ideas, and they want to use the back door to lock in the ranking in advance." Chen Lian's voice was not loud, even with a hint of ridicule, but no one dared to refute, and they all listened silently. "I don't know about your situation in the subdivision, whether you have reached this point through strength or through the back door. During this period, many people have come to Li Shui. Some have made promises, and some have directly given gifts, but it is all in vain. Struggling, don't think about taking the back door in the finals." Chen Lian flicked the ashes of his cigarette and glanced at them, curled his lips slightly and said, "First, I hope this show can continue for a long time, so fairness and justice is very important. Second, you can't come up with anything that can impress me. Money. All the people here together don't have as much money, fame, and fortune as I do. You are just a newcomer, and I don't think your company will pay much for you, so what do you have left? Body. But do you think I will care? Or can I gain your friendship? No one really could be that naive." Chen Lian had a sneer on his face, and his words were like knives. No one expected that Chen Lian would speak so bluntly. Many players already blushed and felt ashamed. Chen Lian didn't care what they thought. He put out the cigarette butt in his hand and said, "So don't think about going through the back door. I'm not interested in you or the conditions you can offer. What I need is an excellent person program. The benefits it can bring to me are beyond what you can compare with." Chen Lian's words were such a slap in the face that all the record company managers regretted coming here today. This was a slap in the face. After Chen Lian said this, he was no longer interested. Today he came to teach Li Shui a lesson, telling her to be bolder in things in the future and not to worry about the face of these people, because they were not worthy of Chen Lian's face. Li Shui sat next to Chen Lian and watched the whole play. She originally thought that Chen Lian would be polite to them and then talk about business, but she didn't expect that Chen Lian would be so direct and press their faces to the ground. "Do you know why they continued to look for you after you refused?" Chen Lian's voice brought Li Shui back to his senses. He turned to look at Chen Lian and shook his head in confusion. She didn't understand why these people didn't take her words seriously, even though she had clearly refused. He even said that if he comes back again, he will be disqualified from the competition, but it still has no effect. Chen Lian looked into Li Shui's eyes and said, "Because you are a woman, because they think you are weak and talkative, because you are not strong enough, because you are too kind and can't bear to cancel several competition places." After saying this, Chen Lian stood up and looked at the players and managers who were blushing and whitening and said, "I have ordered the dishes for you. You can eat slowly. I hope you can perform well in the finals and present a wonderful experience to the audience." The match of. Li Shui stood up after Chen Lian finished speaking and followed him out. The people in the private room breathed a sigh of relief at the same time when they heard the private room door being closed, feeling like they were surviving a disaster. A duo got together with two mainland players and couldn't help complaining, "We haven't even found anyone yet." It turns out they secretly wanted to use the back door. Another contestant also nodded and said, "Yes, we were scolded for causing trouble, but Teacher Chen's scolding was too relieving." Those who did not go through the back door are now very happy, while those who tried to go through the back door but failed are now full of despair. I even felt that I might not be able to get a good ranking in the subsequent competitions. I didn't expect Chen Lian to be this kind of person. "Is he so fair and just?" Angela Zhang couldn't help but muttered. "What's fair and just?" He said it himself, "but it's just that we can't offer any bargaining chips to impress him." The agent glanced at Angela Chang's immature face and couldn't help but sigh and said, "This is not for you. It's a good thing, your strength is much worse than other players, and you probably won't be able to make it to the end." Angela Zhang bit her lip and thought it was a good thing. She had reached the top 3 from Wanwan and reached the finals. She was already famous enough. There was nothing wrong with being able to compete fairly and justly now. Some of these players were unhappy when they were scolded, while others didn't care very much. Instead, they felt a pity that Chen Lian was not allowed to use the back door. "In fact, you can take a walk, even if you don't promise anything afterwards." That's Chen Lian, a quality inspector for a popular female star in the entertainment industry. How can she be embarrassed to say she's famous if she doesn't have an affair with Chen Lian? On the other side, Chen Lian and Li Shui came out of the private room and turned around to eat in another private room. At the dinner table, Li Shui gave Chen Lian a piece of ribs and asked with a smile, "You really don't like them? Those contestants are all beautiful." Chen Lian rolled his eyes at her and said, "Am I such a casual person?" Li Shui said in a low voice, "It's not because they are not popular yet. If they become big stars, you will definitely not be able to bear it." Chen Lian turned his chopsticks and hit Li Shui on the head and said, "You've learned how to choreograph me, haven't you?" Li Shui covered her head and said, "People say you have a collection of female celebrities." "Slander," Chen Lian said bitterly, "I don't like you even if you are not a female star." "That's because of my sister," Li Shui snorted twice, looked at Chen Lian and said, "My sister won't finish work until 8 o'clock. Should we go home at night or stay here?" Chen Lian thought for a moment and said, "Just stay here, I'm too lazy to run home. But there are no toys here and there aren't that many stockings. I like the floor-to-ceiling windows here. You and your sister will look great together in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows." After dinner, Chen Lian took Li Shui to the presidential suite on the top floor. While Li Shui went to wash up, Chen Lian received a call from the princess. "Why haven't you come back yet? I've been waiting for you for a long time." The princess's somewhat lazy voice sounded in Chen Lian's ears. Chen Lian took the phone and said, "I'm not going back tonight. I'll go to your place tomorrow." The princess suddenly became alert and asked, "Did those players attack you? Cai Yan or Quan Bao?" Chen Lian, "I am that kind of person." "Then you are no longer interested in me," the princess snorted and said, "Is it because our relationship has been exposed and there is no secret fun, so you find it boring? What nonsense are you talking about? I have something to do tonight, so don't think too much. Swear, or I will find a boyfriend tomorrow. Let you steal as much as you can." Chen Lian talked to the princess for several more words before hanging up the phone. He turned his head and looked at Li Shui, who was eavesdropping. He couldn't help pinching her fair face and said, "What are you eavesdropping on?" Li Shui snickered and said, "I heard how perverted you are. You actually like stealing, so why did you tell my sister in the first place?" "Oh, I understand, you prefer sisters. Pervert Mr. Chen." Chen Lian was speechless. Why couldn't he get over the topic of perversion today? He is obviously a very serious person. Okay. I have to teach Li Shui a lesson tonight and let her taint her innocence out of thin air. Drop. There was a sudden sound of swiping a card to open the door outside. Li Shui immediately dodged Chen Lian's outstretched hand and shouted towards the door, "Sister! My brother-in-law is bullying me, please help me." "There is no brother-in-law, I only have a brother-in-law." Before Li Bingbing came in, the voice came in first. When Chen Lian heard Li Bingbing say the same thing, he immediately became furious. Okay, let's play like this, right? Tonight I will let you know the difference between brother-in-law and brother-in-law. You two come here and kneel down as punishment. Facing the floor-to-ceiling windows, call me brother-in-law and brother-in-law." Li Shui held Li Bingbing and stuck out her tongue at Chen Lian and said, "Why are you facing the floor-to-ceiling windows? Anyway, you like to put blindfolds on us so we can't see anything." Chen Lian snorted and said, "No more blindfolds tonight. Let you see each other's faces clearly, listen and watch carefully, and enhance the understanding and affection between sisters." Li Bingbing and Li Shui blushed immediately, not because they were shy, but because they felt their heartbeats speed up when they thought of that scene. "I feel ashamed just thinking about it, but I still have some expectations." Li Bingbing and Li Shui looked at each other and immediately understood each other's thoughts. The two sisters ignored Chen Lian and hugged each other. Chen Lian smiled and sat on the sofa watching the scene of the deep love between sisters. The night was extra long tonight.